the agenda for the school committee starts at 6. We're really being mindful of starting on time. As you know, we've been traveling from school to school. We had an opportunity to visit at Green Meadows, and we had an opportunity actually to be at Stony Hill as well too. And we had Sharon Moberg and her student performing. We had Monique Danglos giving us a tour of the work that they've been doing, not only in their library, but remember the book that they traveled outside from place to place. So it was a great opportunity. We sometimes take for granted because we're always here at the high school, but this is the opportunity for Mr. Hill to give us an opportunity to see what's taking place at the high school. And then later on, we're gonna have some student representatives as well, talk to us about what's taking place as well too. So I want to be mindful of the time, and Mr. Hill, I'm gonna turn it over to you. And this is your opportunity for us.
Sure.
Thank you.
So,
Sorry.
welcome. I know you're always here, but welcome to the high school. What we did when we started talking about what would we like to showcase at the high school, we thought about having a jazz band perform or having a chorus group perform, but we've done that in the past. So we decided to really give you an opportunity to virtually tour Minnesota and see what's going on in their classes, see what kids are talking about in the classes. So the departments worked all together, and we have a 58 slide presentation that I'm gonna get through in 15 minutes. So you all have the full slide presentation that Erin shared with you. So at your leisure, you can watch all the videos, you can see every slide. I'm gonna be skipping around in the interest of time because I know you have a full agenda, and I've charted everything out, so I think I can get it done in 15 minutes. So this is your virtual tour of Minnesota. Starting with our climate team has been working really hard to develop advisory lessons, where the advisory lessons are focusing on the different core values that our school has adopted. And one of the tasks that we did over a 2 or 3 week period was to have each advisory assigned by different grade levels, work on a specific core value. And you can see their work is in the hallway as you came in from the back. Our core values are spelled out chalk, and it's that we're honoring, we're adapting, we're understanding, we're growing, we're a community. So the students develop those posters in their advisors. In our English department, we have a short video from our AP seminar class. This is our 10th graders who are learning about how to conduct valid research.
Hello everyone, this is Zoe Wasowski from AP Seminar, and this is some of the things you've heard so far.
So for some of you guys, some preliminary work and 3 tests to prepare us for this class. Those tests include a test list, a letter from Birmingham jail, and using some of the content from our software, we curated our own presentations using percent list and basically agreeing our location. Like mine was about Ireland and the US and our relations today, and some are about how the dangers of the work. Together, we had to evaluate and take and analyze resources using techniques like radio and CRA. Within our argument, we were over how arguments are for using claims, counter arguments, and models, and answers their development. The effective slides show the span and effective delivery methods when it comes to chatting. We explored various excerpts on individual responsibility, community, and analyzed the different ideas regarding charity and societal obligations. We then went on to create a presentation with our own ideas on these topics. Hello, everyone.
Skipping ahead, that's our new social media class, which is next semester. Then we have our freshman who read Romeo and Juliet and discussed it and analyzed it, and then they created their own sonnets using their own creativity as they felt worked. And this is a couple of examples.
Romeo and Juliet live in Verona no more. The star-crossed lovers have been blessed. The holy heaven has opened its door, and no love shall distress. No love shall need a mask, not even those of families that clash. Forgiveness is nothing but a task, so forgive yourselves for being rash. 'Tis not the young lover's fault, but rather the families that overlook peace. Death brought the food to a home, everyone's heart lacking one peace. Conflicts arise when the couple is reunited at last. Hark, hark now, for the lovers will revisit the wonder of their past.
So this is a
Oh my
sonnet.
love, young Juliet, wherefore have I gotten to such a
These are sonnets that the kids wrote based on the themes in Romeo and Juliet. But again, skipping ahead to our fine arts department, and I'll just show you a couple of these.
Hi, I'm Cindy Corey. I'm a junior year in the town, and this year, my history class, my people surrounds time, and all these pieces represent times in my life, and moments I went through. So this is just basically my kindergarten work.
My name is Megan. My name.
I'll show you one of the AP art students.
My name is Madison. I'm a senior at and I'm an AP studio art class. This is one of the works that I created. My standard estimation is on chaos. And so within this and in this class, I'm allowed to experiment in different mediums. These works in specific I created using clips to be paint as a general program on my cover.
So in AP art, you have to develop an argumentative perception, and then you have to carry that through in all your work. So that's what she was talking about. Her theme is chaos. So in our math department, you can see some pictures of trigonometry students outside using measurements to determine and using the angle of elevation to determine the heights of very tall objects, whether they're trees or the buildings, etc. Then you can see our algebra students using a formula for vertical motion, using distance and their calculations, their time calculations. And then this is our statistics class, proving the theory of interval, confidence interval by testing the theory using point fitting. We do have Dr. Trevor here, and she's going to talk a little bit about the resources that we have in our library that our students use.
So we always start to talk about research committee, or we start to talk about the IRC itself, and some of the things we never talk about is actually what the towns contribute to the IRC and how you actually help us with what we're doing in research. So on the left-hand side, it kind of tells you how the sophomore freshmen start off and the sophomores start off as far as scaffolding their research. Freshman foundations kind of bring the foundational in. Sophomore year, we kind of expand a little bit more, but the idea is by junior and senior year, our students are off and running on their research. Some of the things that can really support us with are the databases that we actually pay for through the HWRC budget. So EBSCO, InfoBase, ProQuest, Elsevier, Oxford English Dictionary, Swank, and Sora, total about $18,000 that you actually contribute to our IRC. Makes a huge difference because databases, you cannot buy a half of one. So you have to pay for it in full. The state then offers 50 different databases for us, and that comes with my license. So it's kind of nice to have that. Then on top of that, we have some free ones, but those all together help round out our students' research experience. So they're not just Googling it, they actually are targeted, and we teach them how to do a research plan, where they actually start with a thesis, move their way through research questions, sub-questions, get various perspectives, and they get to argue just about anything that they want within the class confined of what they, like history classes about history, English is a certain thing. So there's a real research plan that's dedicated to Manitowoc and really unique to Manitowoc compared to other high schools. Thank you.
Then you have some biology examples. You can see some experiments in that. This is our environmental science classes. One of the things that they're doing is they took samples of student cars and tested their emissions comparisons and did a data analysis of the different vehicles. This is pretty cool. It's sophomore biology class did a stop motion video of the cell and how the cell will split. Here's your mitosis. And this is some different things going on in anatomy and physiology you can take a look at. This is pretty cool. You gotta see this. This is the physics bed of nails experiment. That's nice.
Okay, so, as my business people know, pressure is force over area. Okay, now if I was to step on a nail, that would be work. Okay, the nail has a tiny area, right? Yeah. And my force, so what force am I on? Yeah. So, by having, let's say 150, that means I'm spreading out the pressure over 150 inches. And so, just to show you these are real nails. It works, right? Yeah.
Now the teacher's laying on the bed of nails.
Okay. Okay. No. Ready? I'm ready. Great.
How do you feel?
So that is physics. And then we go into phys ed. I'm going to skip ahead here. You can see our project adventure, which is located in the back of the school.
It was a great experience, learning how to get out of your comfort zone, and I think it proved all of us that we can do more than anything. There were a lot of students in our class that were really nervous to do this, so it was a really cool experience to watch them be able to succeed. All right, you guys, talk to me about your experience on the ropes course.
During the ropes course this year with Mr. Nico, we had to get closer with classmates that maybe we weren't so close with to, do good in the challenges Mr. Nico put us through.
Yeah, it was challenging, but it was fun to get to know your partners and just talk and just get along with them. You got to do a bunch of different activities challenging.
You can watch all the different aspects of physical education. We have our foreign language where there's some Spanish. There's a video there of the students comparing research from Mexico on how students spend their time versus how students in America spend their time. And they explain that all. We also have the French Club and what they're involved in, and the Spanish Club. Our student activities are back in a full swing, and you can see many of the photos of things they've been involved with this fall. History and social science, they highlighted the new civics course that all seniors are taking and the different things that they're doing there. And I'm just gonna skip ahead into this video.
Probably making this children probably gonna show. It's allowed me to be creative and also civics.
It's a great start to enjoy the mock election because it's all around excited about it.
Definitely makes it great, so it's a fun way to like have fun, so we learn things like about the Constitution, something that sort of competing.
The activity is probably the children's book, because we got to teach the younger children about different things that you can do to be a better citizen, and you also got to express a little bit of creativity with it.
The amazing ways of the years that I like not being in the classroom all the time, because I'm definitely a really
presidential election by far. I participated in it, and did all the way up to the final 3 candidates, and it was really, you really get to see the whole process of how the election cycle works.
These are the 3 books. The students wrote books about civics in action. Then they have visited or are visiting right now every kindergarten class in the district. They're reading the 3 books to the classes, and then the students go out and they are using the same voting booths that the town of Wilbraham uses. And they go out into the hallway and vote for their favorite book. And then when they're done, they get a sticker that I voted, just like the adults. And then we'll be reporting back the results of the entire kindergarten class and which book was their favorite. So the students and seniors have organized this entire project. In special education, you can see the social emotional learning curriculum that we have implemented this year.
Hi, and welcome to Wonder. Wonder has been changing lives since 2011. Now, we want to bring all teachers a new social and emotional learning curriculum. Or, in other words, 5 essential domains for managing and understanding emotions. The nation's only truly blended SEL program. Most students are familiar with just 4 emotions: happy, sad, mad, and scared. But scientists have grouped emotions.
You can learn all about that curriculum, and then we're also using the SMARTS curriculum, which is an executive functioning curriculum in our special education department. We had our fall athletics over now. We had 379 athletes. We had 2 unified sports athletes participate in our cross country team, and now we have 276 winter athletes participating. Our guidance counselors in our counseling center talks a little bit about our responsibilities and then what we do in each grade level to help prepare them for career and college. And then we added we've had so many places out there looking for kids to work. We created a special newsletter for any kids, sophomore, junior, senior, that are looking for part-time jobs. Our businesses can advertise here, and the kids can go on to apply for those part-time jobs. And then we have our internships, which it's been the first time that we've done them since the pandemic. You can see on the right side, PL is at Angela Kupo's office. We have Lauren at Dr. Peck's office. Connor's doing some work at learning how to become a personal trainer. So lots of different things. So that's our 58 slide tour in about 17 minutes. As always, if you ever want to visit Minnetonka and go through the day and see what's happening, let us know. We're happy to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. The entire slide presentation of 58, sorry about that, 58 are, were sent to you electronically, and we're gonna put it on our district website, as well as I've asked Mr. Hale to put it on the high school website so that we can all see that as well too. Excellent, thank you very much.
Just want to make sure I Oh, I just want to, I left it. It's not in traffic.
Patrick, did you get one of these? It was?
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the order and welcome you to the Hampton-Wilbraham Regional School District School Committee meeting. It is 6:12 p.m. Is anyone recording this meeting? Thank you. We will do roll call in alphabetical order. Bill Bontempi. Cheryl Caruana. Sean Kennedy.
Here.
Patrick Kiernan.
Present.
Lisa Murray. Here. Maura Ryan. Here. Michelle Boudreau. Aye. Here. If you would please stand. Cheryl Caruana is leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us all take a moment of silence for the passing of Robert Dole and for all of those who were and continue to be affected by the devastating tornadoes in the Midwest and South. Thank you. We will now begin with our two student reps. We have Jackie Dollaher and Mackenzie Blair. Jackie, I believe, is a senior at Minnetonka, and Mackenzie is a sophomore.
Hi guys, like she said, my name is Jackie Dollaher. And we have a little list for you guys today, just some things that we're currently working on. And so the first thing we have is we have a couple of charity drives going on. So the first one is Toy for Joy. It's a pretty common drive where kids bring in unopened and unused toys, and then it goes to, I'm not sure exactly which nonprofit we're working with. Normally it's Ronald McDonald or something like that. And then we also are doing one for the Canine Club here for supplies for local animal shelters around the area.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Blair, like she said. Right now, we have a career readiness program going on, which is working with our internship program. I currently just finished the career readiness program because it's working with all sophomores. You go through 4 classes in that program, getting you ready for going through an interview. They teach you how to fill out an application, how to fill out a resume, and how to write a thank you letter after your interview. And then they actually bring in members of the community and put you through an actual interview, and then they tell you if they would have hired you or not after the interview. We also had mini chalk this past Tuesday, and we've had them the past 2 months, where the elementary school come in 1 grade at a time, and we go through fun activities like arts and crafts and play some games. And then this past one, we sang some Christmas carols with them. And at the end of all of those, they get to take a picture in a cap and gown so they can see their progression going through all the years. That's all the way till 5th grade.
So the next thing we have is just to talk a little bit about the senior perspective. I myself am a senior this year, and I've got, I myself did early decisions. So we have a lot of students who are getting back their decisions, who did early admission, excuse me, who are getting their decisions back. I myself got accepted into 4 colleges. So I'm really excited about that. So we have a lot of students who are getting accepted, and we also have a Child Commits 2022 Instagram account where we get to post the student, their possible major, and then where they're going. So hopefully that you'll start to see some faces up on Instagram if you guys would like to follow that page. And the seniors definitely are really excited to start for next year and to get into adulthood. So I think a lot of seniors are struggling with senioritis a little bit, but
I'm looking for the snow days already.
yeah, we are.
Already.
We are,
Not even
yeah.
snow in the forecast yet.
Yeah.
And they're already asking me for.
We are. So if you guys are interested in seeing where students are possibly going to be going, because I know a lot of people have already got decisions back, you can follow Chalk Commits 2022, all lowercase, if you guys are interested in that.
Thank you very much.
Where'd you
You're
get
welcome.
accepted to? If you don't
I got
mind me
accepted
asking.
in. Would you like all of them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I got accepted into University of New Hampshire, Springfield College, Franklin Pierce University, and I also got accepted. I'm trying to think. There's one that I'm missing. Oh, Bridgewater State University,
#1 choice so far?
Springfield College. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Nice job, girls.
We have a couple more things. Sorry.
I think you said a bunch of times.
The sophomore class 2024 is also holding a Facebook fundraiser right now. So that is going till January 7th, where you can purchase it's a book and it has a bunch of coupons on it. They're all very local coupons. So there's some for Rice's in there. There's some, I believe, in there for
Like restaurants.
restaurants, Big Y. Yeah, a bunch of restaurants, a bunch of local things. So it's very useful. I know my family is buying them. We love going around and using them. Yeah.
Do you know where they are, or where they're selling them? I know I saw them online last weekend. They were at Rice's. Are there different places?
Yeah.
Do you know where those are?
Every weekend we sell them at Rice's and Garvey's. And then there should also be a link, or we should have a QR code, which is on, it should be accessible online that you can order online for.
Great. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks.
And we have a couple more things, just like one more thing really. So trying to think, December 19th. That's right. Okay, or it could be next week, I'm not too sure. The 21st, sorry, December 21st. We are having our peer mentor event, which is where I think it's hosted specifically just for the freshmen. And we're doing a movie event after school, I believe. Times and dates are to be decided, so I don't know those for sure, but December 21st, we're holding a movie night for all the freshmen, and we were supposed to this past Wednesday have a vote for which movie we were going to watch, but unfortunately advisory got canceled, so we won't be able to do that, so I don't know exactly what movie we're going to be watching. But it's just another like awesome freshman event that the peer mentors are hosting to kind of get everyone together and hopefully also get some feedback to see how the first couple of months of school has been going for them. I do not think we are serving any food or drink just because of COVID. But yep, they're gonna come in, we're gonna watch the movie in the auditorium and then maybe have a little social time afterwards, and then that will be it for the event. And then finally, just the both of us, we hope you guys all have amazing break. I know everyone's looking forward to getting some time off. Our last day is this next Thursday, the 23rd. We have a full day that day because Christmas is on a Saturday.
Christmas card.
I think you're gonna get full the parking lot.
So we hope you guys all are looking forward to the break.
Nothing settled there, girls.
You guys.
No, it's fine. I just, if you guys didn't know when the Minnetonka's last day was. So if you guys have any questions, you'd love to answer them before you guys continue.
No, thank you very much. I hope you guys have a very Merry Christmas and a
Thank you
safe
as well. If
holiday.
you celebrate, have a very wonderful holiday.
Hopefully we'll see you guys right after the holiday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Nice
very
job,
much.
girls.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That was a good way to start our meeting with high school. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're going to move on to public comment. So we will call those of you who have signed up for public comment. We do ask that when called, the person say their name and their address, sit at the designated location and speak for up to 2.5 minutes. If you have any documents that you'd like to share with the committee, please hand them to Aaron. We'll be right back before you begin. And Sean Kennedy will be monitoring time. So it looks like we only have one person for public comment, and Patricia Gordon.
You know to put that on, correct? Years of experience.
Yeah.
That's a button on the front down here. There you go. Yeah.
May I take my mask off, please, 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 please? I hate it. Please. Yes. Just,
We're really asking everyone to keep their mask on. I'm sorry. I really am in the school, so we asked everyone. I apologize.
All right. I shall call Andy. My name is Patricia Gordon. I live at 20 Glen Drive in Wilbraham. Today, I cut out half my verbiage, so I'm sure I'll be good. My question today, what really is driving the strategic plan committee? Politics, Mars, AG's office? I'm now wondering why. Is Mars leading us to a predetermined outcome and conclusions produced by the above mentioned actions? Politics, Mars, AG's office. What I would like to see happen is to define exactly what is an equity audit. It is not a part of our policy. I checked today. I went through that. And how will it be universally applied to our district students' population and curriculum? Are we in lockstep compliance with what Mars dictates to us and or the AG's office? How will the equity audit affect our district's governance, student population, health and wellness services, other students and staff? In determining the conclusions of this strategic planning committee, this is the most important thing I have tonight to say. The weight of input by the parents, grandparents, concerned citizens, students and staff ought to supersede anything presented from and by outside sources.
30 seconds.
I'm done.
Oh.
But I would like to say something about the presentation about the kindergartners. They were lovely. The only thing is, I taught a kindergarten during remote learning. Kindergartners can't read nor write. They can't stay put. They go under the chair, over the chair, over the chair. So good luck with that one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that did not sign up for public comment that would like to make a comment? Very good. We did not have anyone sign up online, so we will move on.
So through the chair, if I could ask, I know that next on the agenda is the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Professional Learning. I'd ask, we have Edson Adelo joining us here tonight. If I could move number 9, which is Director of Finance, Operation, Human Resource, if we can move that up to the next item on the agenda. Sure. Yep. Ed, you want to join us?
So I'm going to flip the order on my 2 items. I'll start with the 10-year capital plan because we have Mr. Sandella with us.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, press the button that says push right in the front. There you go.
Good evening, everybody.
There you go.
So you have in your packets a memo from me, including some spreadsheets that go into the details of our 10-year capital plan. We're actually planning out a little further than even 10 years. Some items on, say, the last year of the plan are items that would be in further years. And in a couple of the spreadsheets, we even have further years in there as we thought things out a little further. I'm not necessarily going to go into detail of every item, I'm going to highlight some of the fiscal 23 items that we think are important. Starting with Green Meadows. So the very first sheet you have is Green Meadows. We're looking to continue some flooring replacements. So this is a sort of a long-term plan to do a few rooms a year and replace some of the flooring. This, I believe, this is the asbestos tile that's being, this is being replaced with CVT, right?
It's actually not asbestos in the areas
Okay,
that we're
I
thinking of.
apologize.
It's the area where we had the, there was a mastic that was used that was not really moisture resistant. And there's quite a bit of moisture in the pad of that concrete pad of that building. So we've been putting new tile down with a moisture resistant mastic, and they've been holding up fine. So we're just going to continue that. We'd like to continue that process.
Sorry, it's other schools we have.
Yes, yep.
I'm sorry. There are some door replacements that really need to start happening. You know, we could space them out if necessary, but we'd like to, you know, try to get those done. Some parking lot repairs. And then we'd really love to have an ADA accessible play structure there, potentially one for the younger students and one for the older students.
Aaron, on that,
Mhm.
why wouldn't we apply to the town of Hampton CPA fund under the
We could.
recreation category? And if we
Yeah.
can, that would take another 120K back in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right. So everything on this plan is exclusive of funding source. So there may even be some things we might try to fund from operations, depending on whether the towns can come up with the money in a given year. And we will work with the towns and talk to them about things like CPA funds. You know, some of them will look for MSBA funding, things like that. That's a good point. Thank you. Burgess,
So,
there were a lot of.
I'm sorry, before you move on from
Sure.
this, so one of the other major issues that's been coming up is the issue with the traffic at Green Meadows.
Mhm.
So are you guys taking that into consideration as you're looking at how you're gonna handle the parking situation?
So Ed is looking at that right now. And we're working on some reconfigurations of some of the sidewalks and the drive-in.
I met with Bob Markle on the other Tuesday, I think, after our meeting that I had with the town of Hamden. I'm scheduled to be with the select board on Monday. I'm on their agenda to talk a little bit further about their concerns that they have, as well as what we need to make sure that our kids are safe. So that will be a conversation we'll have with them starting on Monday after select board.
Okay.
So moving on to Burgess, you know, with some questions about the status of Burgess, you know, I think a few cans have been kicked down the road over the years, and we'll definitely look at some of these things. The first item, you will see switch and network updates at a number of schools. One of the items you will see in the memo, we have 6 separate schools and we have 6 separate phone systems. That has become an ongoing problem from a cost perspective, from a management perspective, and even a safety perspective. So one of the things we're looking at is to work on a hub and spoke model, where say Minnetonka is our primary hub and each of the schools is a spoke. Different schools have different ages of phones. We are doing some testing right now with Burgess with some excess phones we have, and it seems to be working well. Kiara, you have a phone that we pop in, it works well. It's so, you know, we're looking, I think the special education department or special student services department is the next on our list to think about trying to add to that hub and spoke model. So you will see these sort of upgrades in each school over the next few years. Some schools have newer phone systems and we're not going to pull out a brand new phone system to put in to change it, but we're going to do it mindfully and thoughtfully over a period of time. Parking lot lighting, the parking lot, those of you who've been in that parking lot know that parking lot's a little rough. If we were to convert it to a full school of some sort, obviously this would really become urgent. Things like the lighting and the repaving of the parking lot. You know, right now we just want to make sure it's on the plan and it's something that they're aware of that's going to need to get some attention at some point.
So there's $2.3 million for Thornton Burgess. is gonna come out of the town of Hamden's, as our landlords. They're going to be working on this, or
So just.
what's the exact formula
So
again?
well, there's no formula for Burgess. So Burgess is owned by the town of Hamden, so they're responsible for the capital needs for that building. Just like Wilbraham was responsible for the roof of the middle school building, the Wilbraham Middle School building.
It's the first 50,000 comes out of the school budget. That's what I was looking for. Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
That's part of the regional agreement.
Yeah. So for the next 5 years, we have $2.3 million worth of improvements to a school that we're really not utilizing at the maximum.
Potentially, yeah.
But in theory, it could cost us about $50,000 times how many of the different projects we had, so.
And I don't want to go off. So, from the chair, just, our goal is to have that at school, right? And so one of the things that we've been doing.
Have what?
Our goal is to continue to use that and eventually have that coming back as a school. So one of the things that we've been doing is making sure that none of the things elapse. So one of the things that we have students in there and keeping the building up and going, because if the building is closed for 5 years, then everything has to kick in terms of all the requirements that need to be. Our goal when we're talking about our reorganization and our regional agreement is eventually to have that be one of our schools. And
So this is new. This is the first I'm
Nope,
hearing
and
that.
I think it's always been something that we wanted to use all of our schools. We weren't ever planning on not using it, but that's a
Didn't we
big.
try to give it back to the town of Hamden and they wouldn't take it back? So why we're still using it?
Yes.
Right.
I would agree with Sean. I mean, I think that's probably a whole nother topic.
Agreed.
To see
At
any
another time.
investment in this is pretty scary. But
Yeah.
Yep.
And again, some of these items are planning items. We don't necessarily know that we're going to need to replace the roof in fiscal 26. We're putting that as a, sort of state, and we're gonna look at the roof, we're gonna evaluate it. It may be possible that if we're still unsure what we're going to do, we may patch it in spots if needs be, and work from there. So it's not a foregone conclusion that the roof has to be done in fiscal 26. Same with the doors and windows and things like that.
Excuse me one second, but the list and the numbers are just an informational piece to say, we should really be looking at these items. The years are what our best guess. The dollar amounts are our best guess, especially for the past couple of years. The price of materials have gone crazy. And availability of materials is unbelievable. So when Aaron and I crafted this, it's just kind of where you think we need to go, what we should be looking for. Almost like not a reserve study, but kind of in 10 years, we should be looking at these items. So we're trying to put a number on it.
And in a lot of ways, this fills in the gaps in the meeting that we had with the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee from both towns a couple of years ago, where the towns, and I believe Wilbraham is working on that now, and basically doing a town-wide assessment of all of the buildings that they have and determining what the capital needs of each one of those are. So this is a great start because that fills in a lot of the gaps for them. Now, the people that they put in charge of that may end up, people they put in charge of that may find more, they may find less. But, to have our facilities department do that makes the most sense, seeing as how you guys are intimately acquainted, intimately involved in each one of the buildings.
Yep, we're there every day.
And the same conversation happened last year with you folks, when we appreciate you guys coming to Hamden to meet with the capital planning committee as they start to establish how they want to look at it, not just the fiscal year we're in, but the next 5 and 10 years.
Exactly, begin to
We
think
start
about
do
it.
the same plan.
Yep.
And keeping up the buildings, what we don't want to, and we've heard from the school committee as well as the town, is what took place with Memorial, right? So we sort of didn't keep our eye on that, even as tenants, right? That we didn't keep our eye on some of the things that were going, weren't necessarily needed to be repaired, and that's, sorry, go ahead.
Minute chop.
The old
Repairs that
minute chop.
needed to be done, the old minute chop. We hear that time and again, so we want to put it back even further. I mean, that was those were calamitous circumstances that led to what many people in town felt was a premature deterioration and ultimately the destruction of the school.
You will read in the memo that this is a work in progress. So Ed and I sit down with all the principals. We've sat down with the principals this year. We meet with the facility staff in each building. We walk the buildings. We walked every nook and cranny of every building and talked about every piece of boiler, every electrical system, things like that to make sure that we hit everything. And we'll do that again this spring and into the summer as well. Walk the buildings and check everything, climb up on the roof and get a good look. So that's kind of the ongoing plan for that. So moving on from Burgess, we'll move on to Mile Tree. Mile Tree, you'll see in Wilbraham, some of these items are highlighted. We've already shared these particular items with the town of Wilbraham because they asked the other week prior to us presenting this. So one of the items is to tie the Mile Tree sewer into the municipal line. The municipal line from Minichog goes straight into the town line. It goes right past Mile Tree. So instead of having them on a septic system, we'd like to get them on the town sewer line. We'd like to replace the window treatments. Those are all the blinds. Those are a safety item. So they allow, teachers to close those windows and make sure people can't see in. It also protects heat and light from coming in, and even in the winter, some degree of cold from coming in. So it does provide, some savings energy-wise and some safety factors. Any questions there? Okay, as we move on to Stony Hill, we are again looking for an emergency generator. Stony Hill actually has a power line situation with a power line that runs in on the road in, and there are those trees that line it. When there are heavy winds, very frequently branches from those trees take down the power lines. We had a situation last year where all of our staff were trapped in the building, which this wouldn't have fixed, but they had no power, no electricity. We had to kind of wait for PG&E for them to even have power. There's a PG&E or which?
National Grid.
Oh, National Grid.
Yeah.
Throwing it out of them. So anyhow.
The other ones that cause all the
electric
fires.
guys. So, we really feel like a generator would be very helpful there. It's also a safety kind of thing, and it can be a community resource if there were a sort of natural disaster or a situation. It could be a place for people to come for shelter, charging, things like that. If we did lose power for a long period of time, we could have food spoilage and things like that. So, we just think it's prudent.
Yeah, good. So each one of those generators,
Yeah.
how much are we talking? 500 kilowatts? I mean, is it enough to run the whole building, or is it just necessary components in there? And
Good question. Somewhere in between. Originally, the buildings that have them, excuse me, like Thornton Burgess, it did the emergency lighting. You could switch over the walk-in cooler freezer, but that was about it, and it ran the boiler. So I would like to do, this building is probably in the 80–85% covered with the generator it has. I like to see between 65 and 70% of the building done, because you don't need every outlet. And it's occurred to me that our outages seem to be getting more frequent and longer. And
is it enough to run the school? Is it enough so that if the power were to go out in the school, you would still have power available to instruct students so that you wouldn't have to close the building?
that is my goal, yes, to make sure that and it depends on what building it is, but yes, the kilowatt need would be, like I said, I didn't want every outlet, but we want to have lights, heat, be able to feed and teach students.
And do you have the fuel sources on hand to do that? Are there gas lines to every?
All, and have natural gas to every building.
So that was something we requested last year and we ran put through, so.
And then did we approach the town about tree removal along that road? Or is that not school property?
A lot of them are not school property. We did a lot of trimming on the little green belt on the right side going in, and try to do as much as we could there, because that is ours. But that left side belongs, a lot of it, that road is literally 6 feet from the property line. So it's, and the trees that are hurting us are deeper in, so.
And you said they're down the power lines themselves?
Yeah.
So it may make sense for us to ask the town to see if they've reached out to the power company, because a lot of times they have a budget to remove the trees that are along those kinds of lines.
Mhm.
It helps them not have to repair lines on major areas. It's the one thing I've learned in the last few years, so. But there is money budgeted by the power company to go in and do that kind of thing.
National Grid has been in there to make repairs easily 5 or 6 times in the past couple of years.
Have we ever approached the property owners?
I have not,
Tree
no.
removal?
No.
So
That's what the issue is, Mara, is it's their property, it's not our property, it's not the town's property, it's personal property.
no, but in the same right, the power company will reach out to the homeowner as well to say the trees are creating a problem with the lines.
Yep.
And for them, it's more cost effective to cut the trees down, or at least say, let's trim them. And if the power company's willing to do it, then the homeowner doesn't have to bear that burden.
Okay.
It's just someone has to ask the question.
Fair enough. Move on. So the fire panel at Stony Hill is getting older. That's a safety issue. If that fire panel were to go, we would not be able to have school. We're in good shape with it now. We're not worried it's going to fail tomorrow. But as fire panels age, it also becomes harder to find replacement parts for those. I've dealt with that with an older system elsewhere. It's very challenging. Stony Hill would be the first school we'd be looking at to do to rework their phone system. So that's the voice over internet protocol. So we'd be looking to move that into Stony Hill School potentially this summer or some of that, if we could. And then again, Stony Hill could use to have their window treatments replaced. Moving on, Sewell Road. We are looking at windows. You will see Sewell Road could use windows and Wilbraham Middle School could use doors and windows. Again, these are not immediate, absolute, urgent needs. The doors work, the windows work. But we want to make sure these are on the radar screen and we start talking about age of doors and age of windows. This is about the time frame in which we'd be looking to replace those. This could be done through an MSBA program. It could also be done over time. So, it's not like, if it's not imminent, we could do it over 5 years if the town felt like that was the best way to do it, or do it through an MSBA program. Boiler exhaust stack, that's sort of the chimney that comes out. The brick on that boiler stack is in rough shape. We'd like to have that repointed. Sewell Road was slated on our calendar to have a generator this year. When we were refused for Stony Hill last year, it just means the two of them are in the same year. Obviously, they might not be able to do both of them. We would prioritize Stony Hill. So that brings us to Sewell Road. Middle school, doors and windows, again, a big item there. And then the only other thing this year, we've done some work to the auditorium this year, replacing some items. But the curtains are in very haggard shape. I believe they're being held together with duct tape and they're very ratty. We'd really like to get those replaced. That's the $35,000.
I have a question about the school. Guess we're going out to FY25 for the parking lot. I wonder, and maybe you could help me with this one. Did the project to put in all the 100 parking lot slots behind the middle school for the new complex that's been put on and is being used now? We had talked about the safety issue, having those 100 cars night and day going through the middle school parking lot.
This is for the recreation, the area that's going on beside it.
So has that been resolved? Or are those cars going to still access that parking lot?
To my knowledge, I don't know the answer to that. I have not had any discussions with the town or
I don't want that to drop, and I'm not the one who should have the discussions, but I certainly don't want that question dropped, because if those kids do cross the parking lot for PE to go out and utilize those fields, there's a lot of issues there.
Okay, so I've been engaged in those conversations. So one of the things that we're not going to do is have access to that facility right now at this point. Again, a lot of conversations still happen during school hours, right? That's for the dog park, for all of that complex back there. But one of the things that we're very concerned about is them having the ability to come onto our school property during school hours. So we're looking at that would be open right during this time frame.
Isn't there another, another egress, like, from the road? So couldn't we just block off so there's no one that you can't get access to the field through the, middle school and have them use the other one?
I think that's a conversation going on with the neighbors of that road that, I think that was part of a conversation that happened in Wilbraham Town Meeting, I think at one point. So I think that's all part of a bigger.
But the problem is even if the neighbors agreed that road can house about 37 cars, then you get wetlands.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything with the wetlands. That's why you have to go behind the middle school. So yes, that's been looked into, but it's really not a viable option either way.
But one of the things that we've been adamant about, Sean, and school committee, I'm sorry, is that during school hours, that you're sort of like our property. So
You want traffic driving.
that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, and that parking lot is in dastardly shape. That parking lot, especially if you go down by the gym, they got those big cement piers that stick up about 5 inches.
It's all glued together with crack filler and it's time.
And just one, like, especially during arrival and dismissal, like, we could not have that be an access to people, like, it just.
It's already a nightmare on dance days.
Yeah.
Moving on to Minichog. So Minichog is starting to see.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Given the shape of it, why are we saying FY 25?
Right.
FY 25 for what?
For the parking lot.
That's 4 years, I mean.
And I'm just thinking about how many winters that is.
Wait, which are we saying? 25?
Parking lot at
The parking lot at Wilbraham Middle.
Okay, I mean, if you'd like to move it up, we can.
It's your call, I would just,
Right.
if we're saying it's
I
in
mean,
that
we
type
could
of
move it
shape,
to 24.
and there's a liability concern, so the two
Okay.
biggest liability concerns I see here are the stadium seating
Okay.
repairs and that
Mhm.
parking lot. So
Okay,
the faster we could get that done, I would
I can
think.
move it to 24.
Ed, is that okay with you? Do you agree?
Absolutely.
Can I ask you a question? And I don't know the answer, but I'm asking, out of all of our parking lots, because I look at Sewell Road as well too, and that's a tough parking lot as well. We can keep filling that and filling that and filling that. Out of all of our parking lots, is Wilbraham Middle the worst?
Well, they're both in the same condition. They really are equal. I did a little work at Sewell Road this year.
Yep.
I did where the buses come in.
Sure.
Because that was just pulverized.
Yep.
There was nothing there. So I did I think a 80-foot or 60-foot wide strip that came around to pick the sidewalk up, but the
And a
rest
lot
of
of
it.
patches.
And there's a lot of patches there. Yeah, that's again glued together with the crack filler.
And so depending on what happens with the dog park and the recreational area upgrades, it would certainly be most feasible to, depending on their timeline, to sort of piggyback off of that, because now you're excavating it once, you're paving it once, and you're not, for lack of a better term, God forbid, you repave the parking lot, and then all of a sudden you got these huge asphalt trucks running over a brand new parking lot to do the repair. So I would definitely say that would need to be coordinated with the town of Wilbraham to make sure that when that construction is done, it's done simultaneously.
Good there? Okay. Minichog, as we get to Minichog, there's some things in Minichog where the buildings components are starting to definitely show their age. We'll start with excuse the missing cafeteria and potentially gym in the sound system for 20,000. The switches and various network components in this building are original to the building. They are definitely showing their age. They are 10 plus years old at this point. We need to start looking at replacing those. Again, we could do it piecemeal if we had to. And as we're looking to do some upgrades with the phone system as well, you'll see below. We'd really like to sort of get that all in one. There are a couple of high-end computer graphics classrooms where we'd like to make sure we have a system of replacing those computers. So you'll see $30,000 in each of the next couple of years for some computers. We did buy the graphics computers last year. for the high school, and you'll see replacing them again starts in fiscal 27. So we're just trying to have a cycle with some of the replacement items. You'll also soon see we have a Chromebook replacement cycle here. It's in here somewhere. A little further down, you will see coral risers. The coral risers are, Ed, how old? I want to say 20 plus years.
So
old.
they're longer than that. They
Current
came,
ones.
yeah, they came from the original high school.
Yeah.
And they're the same age. We carried them over into here.
Yeah, the real feeling is that they're starting to become kind of a safety hazard with students on them. We'd really like to get those replaced. I think we're committed to doing that one way or the other, whether we go through anyone or not. The phone system, this is largely the servers and the backbone for the phone system. We'll be doing some upgrades also to storage and making sure we have a robust system for the district. And then finally, we get to the stadium seating repairs. This is really replacing the stadium seating out there. My understanding is that we can't just do repairs anymore. Any repairs we do would be enough work that ADA compliance would come into play. And the way they are set up, the framing is set up, it would not be ADA compliant. So it really comes down to replacing everything. We also have the press box up top, which is not ADA compliant. There's no way to access that. So, we're looking at a pretty big price tag for that. Again, the town, Wilbraham is aware of it, and we'll be making Hamden aware of it when we share this with them tomorrow morning. We have reached out to CPA, and I don't believe there's anything they're able to do for us.
Stadium, you can't do a stadium. Stadiums won't apply CPA. But so on that, like, as the agreement is written, in theory, we're on the hook for the complete cost of that replacement, correct?
Who is the district?
The district.
Yes, yes. So this is, yes. So I've shared it with the town. I will share it with Hamden for informational purposes as much as anything. But they're, us being on the hook, they're on the hook for their shares, right? If we're doing the capital project, they're going to be on the hook, and we're going to need to get their buy-in.
Patrick, what was I'm sorry, what was the, did we ever get a feeling from CPA whether or not that was something that they would?
Stadiums aren't allowed.
They're not allowed.
No. So it's specific language in there, from an act standpoint, you can't do a stadium.
Steve Hill reached out to them.
They tried multiple times when they were even starting to build the whole field project. It's just.
Right.
Wasn't that part of the boosters fundraising project for for the whole turf field and everything?
I don't know.
I think it was phase 3.
Yeah.
But if you look at what the fundraising efforts were, that's. Fundraising.
I think it was, the money was used for surveying and coming up with the plans and stuff like that. That's what they could use it for, but not for the actual building.
What? No, so CPA money was used for all site preparation, everything. The CPA money can't be used for the rug itself.
Right.
So that's what, and some additional stuff to what boosters want to pay for. But if you look at that stadium, it is a liability. And it frankly, I'm surprised it's still there and we haven't had a major issue already. I mean, it's bad.
So a couple things. So to your question, I think that was part of, like, to what Patrick said, a phase 3, right? They're first gonna do the field, which I think there's still some, they're working on the pavement of that. I think the next was locker rooms.
Yes, underneath the stadium.
Yeah, and then there was the third
That's
phase
what-
was
that's what I
that.
remember.
So with that being said, Mike Roy and Ed's group have done amazing work, like spit and glue. That's the expression I use, just trying to keep it up and going. But it seriously is a liability where someone's gonna get hurt at some point.
This
So
be for both sides of the stadium, for the visitors seating too, or
So
just the
the
main?
visitor seating is those metal ones that are, those are like residual, they'll last for a long period of time. It's the ones that are in the stadium that are wood, and then they put plastic, I'm speaking for you, I know, we put plastic over them, and they get everything they put.
They've been rehabbed probably 3 times since I've been here.
Yeah.
So I know that I did have an opportunity to speak to a couple of people, and they said that they wanted to restart the fundraising efforts. I know that, I mean, COVID just decimated their efforts. I mean, we were, they were on a nice trajectory, and then COVID hit and everything got shut down. I know that Glenn Garvey has literally put himself into this, and I think it should be made. People should publicly acknowledge the fact that this guy has done so much for this town. I mean, it's amazing, and he basically carried that note on that field, so that they got paid, and so he's still on the hook for that. And the fundraising efforts, they need to be town-wide, and I think it's towns-wide. And I think it's unfortunate because, there are many people who use those fields, and there are precious few who actually donate to it. And, it's a community field. I see people there all the time. Any time of the day, any time of the night, weekends, they're there. I think that people really need to step up their efforts. I know we're coming out of the pandemic, but at the same time, there was, everybody has access to it, and I think that it should be a priority for people.
I think the suggestion would be to have them come back to a school committee meeting, because they haven't been with us in a while. Let us know the status of where they're at with the work that they've done so far and how we can work together, because I think this is a priority for those bleachers.
I've talked to Ron Curzio, and Ron has said that he would be more than welcome to come back. So if you want to talk to him, you can come up with some dates and I'll get in touch with him.
We had talked at one time about a fiber project, and I know we were doing it in conjunction with the towns for, to connect all the schools with fiber. I know that was something that happened, and then who knows with COVID, but what is the status of that? I don't see anything in here for fiber.
It's completed.
So we have fiber connection between all of these schools now?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
That was done, I think even before COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, just before.
We were stressed because we weren't sure that we were gonna be able to go full remote, because we're concerned, like literally, right along the same.
So that helps with the phone system.
Exactly.
Right? Because if
The
you have the
backup,
phone
yeah.
system, you can just connect it all, and it's all on the poles, none of it's underground, correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah, we've even fixed the mice issue. Apparently mice love chewing fiber cables. So
Yes, they're so big.
we had an outage of Mile Tree over the summer. And mice had chewed through the fiber cable, so we had to repair that. We put shielding on it and kind of protected it. So that's kind of good news there. Most of the network issues we have are not fiber-based, they're building-based. They're old switches, routers, and we've added, we keep saying we've added, the number of Chromebooks we have to a network that is getting older, right? 10-year switches, things like that in this building. They're not made for the capacity we're putting on.
Can any of the CARES money be used for, the infrastructure money that's coming? Can any of that be used?
Any of the ESSER funds?
Yes, but I
CARES,
mean,
what?
even the local communities are getting funds as well, that, for infrastructure, I realize that that's
Yeah.
like roads and buildings and things like that.
If the town money is eligible for that, they could apply it, I suppose. I don't know what the rules are for the money going
I
to
hadn't
them.
seen rules yet, I didn't know if you had heard of any, so.
So Sean and I were actually just bantering about it, it leads back, I'm looking at the list of these capital projects, and I think, this list should be enough of an impetus to spark a serious conversation between the two towns in the school district about grant writing again. There has got to be federal money out there. There
There
has
is.
got to be dollars that we can be pulling in to use for these projects rather than pulling that burden onto the taxpayers of these two towns.
I agree. Can I just go, I'm sorry, Aaron, so school committee, I guess I'm asking the question, besides getting Ron here to talk, give us a little bit of an update. So what's the next steps? Because we'll get through the winter, we might get through the spring, right? But when we're back in the fall season, using that field at full, so what are our next steps? And I'm asking, I don't know the answer,
So I'd like to hear from Ron.
Okay.
See where the boosters are, and what kind of coordinated effort we can put together with them. $1 million is a big nut for stadium seating, but at the same time, it pales in comparison to potential liability if somebody were to fall and end up paralyzed.
And I was looking through, because when I was very, very young at the school that I went to, they demolished it and sold the property, but they sold the bricks to the school and they raised a ton of money. So I could see, like, if we have those stadiums, I mean, I'm sure there are people who would love a chunk of that wood or
I
something,
think
you know.
Ryan was doing something. I think that was their plan, even like their bricks and I think COVID hit and sort of everything just sort of fell.
So there's some creative ways that we can, you know, get people to donate, I'm sure, but, you know.
So why don't we try to get him for the next, I can reach out to him and see if he can make it to the next meeting. So that we can reserve some time on the agenda. Is that okay, Michelle? And then it'll coincide perfectly because then we're going to start into, after the first of the year, we're going to start into budget season. And then we can sit down with finance and advisory and, you know, even maybe pull in some of the select board members and really sit down and try to, and capital planning and try to figure out what we're going to do.
So Bill, can you just tell us who, some people might not know, we're just throwing Ron's name
Ron,
around, just
so
so
Ron,
who he is in
yeah,
this
so
role.
Ron DeCurzio is the head of the Minnetonka Boosters. And so, and this is a position that he's had for a while. The boosters, for those of you who don't know, and he'll give you an overview of this, but basically the boosters is sort of an umbrella organization that basically covers all of the co-curricular activities within the high school. It was organized that way, and I remember Mary Ellen, when she was here, was talking about how they had set up the boosters in this umbrella fashion, because what would happen is individual sports teams would go out and do fundraising efforts, and they were oftentimes competing against one another. And so this way the boosters can help coordinate, and at the same time, the money that is raised goes to the boosters, and then the boosters can disseminate that money as necessary, and not necessarily one sport or one group of students would dominate fundraising in the town. But Ron will be able to give you a much clearer description of how they work. But they are an absolutely vital part. There's a lot of people behind the scenes of the boosters that you never hear from. You know, they run the concession stand. They do a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we don't even know about, and those people deserve an awful lot of credit.
So thanks. I just wanted for Mary's minutes and for people who might not know, we just throwing Ron's name around, just what his role is. Great, thank you.
I have just one more question because we went around through really fast. Is there any plans, Ed, to revamp somehow with land, the way the buses and the parents dismissal?
From Wild Tree?
Yeah, it's just a nightmare. I keep hearing it from parents that it's just really.
It is.
Excuse me, gentlemen, they're having a conversation, being distracted.
It's it's really difficult. I mean, we've looked at it a number of times. I had Dan Menard come and take a look at it. And it's a matter of.
Even Ken Willett, sorry to interrupt you, he's coming.
You're right, Ken Willett, yeah, our security advisor. It's a matter of the width of that property and the entrance road. Unless we can figure out some other way to do that. Like Sewell Road, if you remember, we ended up putting a circular driveway in front of it.
Some of the property.
Yeah, we really can't do that there. It's key on a number of things, simply because the leach field for that school, which we are still using because we haven't hooked up, is under the playing fields. So you can't go there. So there's a.
That's where I was thinking of going.
Yeah, it's a number of things that have to happen. Yeah.
It's also even like one of the things we had, even with the bus company, is the timing, right? So those buses coming off Main Street, coming down, like if they went around through the high school, that makes it even longer, Cheryl. So lining up that way and blocking up that. So we've actually played a little bit with the configuration. We've carved out a couple of curves of some
islands. We
Thank
changed
you.
some islands there.
We're trying. We really are with that.
Would it, I know this is a shot in the dark, but right next door, that's what Sean and I were just talking about, was the farmland. The farmland runs adjacent to that. Has there ever been any discussion about seeing if we could procure enough? If you could run a road, a second road, right, from Main Street all the way along that border, basically just create almost an easement, then you would have a circular pattern for your buses. So you would literally be able to bring buses in and have a huge circular driveway that would allow us to load and offload kids.
That's a good idea. I don't recall any conversations with any of the Merrick family.
There's
with
also
regards
a
to
White House on Main Street, and I think it probably goes right back to facilities. We could rent
We can run them through there. I think it's okay.
Already there.
Yeah, so good that it's figured that one out.
Driveway's there, right, if you just run them in through that way, just want to throw that idea out. Okay.
Nice easy. So
I don't
that's
make any
that's a good idea.
decisions, so.
It's a good idea.
Sorry. Yes.
I do have a question, or more for the full committee that's somewhat related. So during our negotiations subcommittee meeting on Monday, is that right?
Yes, it was Monday.
One of the things that we discussed, it had to do with the amount of money that is going to coaches and to stipends. So if you look at it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, I think it's just under $500,000. And then if we look at between the stadium seating, the pool timing and scoreboard, and then the rug replacement, that's 1.6 million in capital needs over 9 years from an athletic standpoint. Our athletics are not self-funding. Do we want to have a model done to see what would happen to user fees if it allowed us to then self-fund our athletics programs?
Yes, makes sense.
So we're not committed to anything. It would just
No,
be,
but it gives you guys a good
if Aaron and the finance team would look to say with like Roy, here's what that would look like, because we're paying a substantial amount out of our budget. So with that $500,000, I know it doesn't sound like much, that's 1% out of our total budget effectively going to stipends and coaching fees.
And if you'll humor me, it dovetails nicely with the financial report I'm gonna give next.
I didn't practice.
No, fantastic. Are we okay with capital?
So before we go there, is that something that you're asking us, the business office to take a look at? So I just want.
I'm asking the committee as a whole, if the committee thinks that that's something that makes sense.
Second, yeah.
No, I think that's a reasonable request. At least you should be taking a look at every avenue. I know you'll get some pushback, community wise, but.
So we're not committing to anything. We're just
No,
taking a
we're
look at it and
just-
seeing if the finance company.
We have to ask a question.
Finance department will come back and give you guys some information about it. Okay, fair enough.
Ed, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed.
And the knees are all good?
Everybody have a nice Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
The knees are all good?
Yeah, these are great.
Nice.
Good.
Thanks,
Got
Ed.
a new life. Thank you.
That is-
So on to the next, you have a financial report in front of you. And one of the first things I was going to call your attention to is athletics on page 2. You'll notice that they are in a negative situation at the moment. The athletic revolving account was drastically depleted over the past really 2 years. Just not enough students, sports, a lot of additional costs to sports because of COVID. So, when we talk about, like, we did buy some uniforms and things like that at the end of last year, that was in an effort to help preserve what we had, right? We knew we had some money at the end of the year. We knew we could support athletics a little bit with that. So their athletics account is pretty close to zero right now. Now they've just taken in winter sports fees, things like that. But they went from a pretty solid sort of ongoing revolving balance to very little balance. If any, I think they're down in the $10,000 range last I looked. On a good note, we do have some other accounts, our facilities account. We haven't really spent much out of that. We haven't taken in as much, but we really haven't spent anything out of it. So, that account is sitting in good shape. Honestly, food services, which doesn't show up in our budget because all students, they're receiving a full reimbursement for all student meals. That account is very robust. Julie's looking at how to actually address that in some ways. So there's some positive, but this is one of our negatives at the moment, is looking at athletics. And, maybe we need to look at our fee structure and examine, all of our costs keep going up, and if our fees stay the same, something's going to give at some point regardless. You will also note, I think I mentioned employee separation costs is something we don't budget for. I'm going to work on at least budgeting something in this next year. So we have something to start. It's never been budgeted for. Many districts don't budget for it. So I'd like to budget for it going forward. I think the remainder of sort of the negative variances are items we've talked about in the past. But I'm happy to, I don't see any of those as being tremendous issues. Obviously, the substitutes lines will just continue to increase year on year. The salaries lines, where we have some variances, will largely stay very similar because we've encumbered all of the salaries. Substitutes, the challenges, we're continuing to have long-term leaves and short-term leaves and things like that. So it's really eating away their substitute lines. We do have money written into the ESSER grant, so we could sweep some of this money onto the ESSER grants. We just want to wait till later in the year before we go doing that, so we know where we are. So, we can clear up a lot of that negative variance in the substitute lines, with the journal entry onto the ESSER grants when we're ready. So. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'm done then. Thanks, thank you.
Director of Curriculum Instruction Professional Wear. Ms. Gert, I think that we're just looking to see about the handbook vote that was given to the second.
Okay, take my.
Oops. Thank you. Yes, so the handbook revisions were sent to you all, I believe, before Thanksgiving, so you have them, and it's just a matter of looking at them and then voting on them.
And so that we can move forward and get those out in public and posted.
I had a few questions. Sorry, go ahead.
So the policies that we enacted before COVID with regards to the use of devices, are those now added to the handbook? Because they were not added to the last edition.
Which ones are you speaking of?
There were forms for each school that each family and parent had to sign that we had voted on as a committee and was supposed to be added.
The device lending agreement is now in there?
No. It's the
AUP.
Yeah.
Or pretty much.
APR.
Yes.
Yeah, those are all supposed to be added into that we wanted to kind of make it a one-stop shopping, so everything was right there in the handbook.
Okay.
Patrick, you said that your question?
It's a few different things. So if we go under transportation and bus policy.
Yep.
Why did we remove this section on discoveries?
That was the whole point of having discovery that a private entity being in our handbook and being addressed through the school just didn't seem appropriate. So that was something that was removed from that. And I think that any agreements that would happen with discovery and busing would need to be okay through Aaron's department.
I'm not sure all the way along the lines why we had that as part of our handbook when it's a private entity that runs. It's not like the Y program, right, where we get financial coming back to us from that. Discoveries is sort of, and it's a great program, please don't get me wrong. Families love that, children love that. But I'm not sure why we have a private entity who are displaying that in our student handbook and our district wide handbook. And maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't disagree with you. It's only that when you get into whose residence is more than 2 miles from the school or 1 mile from the nearest bus stop, you potentially have students that live within that radius that are now being bused because they're a discovery student. So I don't disagree, it doesn't belong in there. I would just make sure that our language has it clear so that we can't be called for doing something inappropriate. So that was the first one.
I
Sorry,
know
go ahead.
that easily 5 years ago, when it was my first year on the committee, I was asked to go to Discoveries and find out why they had this special relationship with the district. And it was done through a superintendent, I think it was Paul, where they were looking for a new site, and this house became available, but it was very close to the schools. And Paul said, if we can use the buses to get them to Discoveries, and if you guys take this house and turn it into a top-notch, preschool, it'll all work to the good. And so before we do anything, I think it would behoove the superintendent and perhaps Aaron, with you, to go and talk to them because it's their whole livelihood.
Yep, so please don't get me wrong, we're not stopping you. We say to parents all the time, you're looking for a childcare, we have the why, we have discoveries, we have opportunities for our kids before school and after school, all day long. The why program is an affiliation of ours, we financially get some money back from them, we have a relationship with them. Discoveries, my concern is you open this up for discoveries, which is, and we will continue to have that relationship. But someone else hangs a shingle and says, I'm gonna start doing childcare and I'm gonna be able to do this as well too. At what point are we stopping? And I don't think it's our purview to be putting that in our student handbook.
I would just.
And if
urge
I'm
you
wrong,
to-
please.
I would urge you to go and talk to them because I don't know if their agreement was in writing or not. But I do know that they do provide busing from Green Meadows every day to Discovery Center.
And I believe when I first asked about this, when I first got into policy and I joined the committee, I was told it was in the handbook because the buses were coming from the school.
Right.
So we were identifying the fact that there was that relationship there. So I think it's interesting that here, 2 years later, we're now taking it out when it was asked about. For sure, I joined.
Yeah.
I would just make sure our language is clear.
No, yeah, no, I don't disagree.
Again,
So my understanding is I'm just taking a look at this. What is in this for discovery is typically what we do. We allow students to get dropped off or who qualify for transportation to be dropped off at a childcare provider. It has to be 5 days a week, right? So this is the same language I believe that we already allow for.
I'm not sure that that's accurate, so I would look into it because I believe the other one that's, I don't know what it's called, but going down Stony Hill Road past the Pines, I believe that they have to bus all of their kids, pick their kids up from schools because we will not allow those students on the bus to get dropped off there because it's different than their pickup location. in the morning.
I'll double check that.
So I would just look into it. That's all I'm saying. Let's make sure we're clean on our language.
So
and
for
nobody can
example,
say,
we're transporting students to the YMCA. And if we're doing that, transporting them there because they're Burgess, we will only do that 5 days a week. So it could be an issue where you're talking about families who aren't wanting to do it 5 days a week. So the policy is we'll take them to the YMCA program at Burgess, but it has to be 5 days a week because the bus company can't just do this, one
Right,
off.
and I think at the preschool program, they do it 5 days a week, so that the parents come and they wait in the driveway and pick their kids up from the bus there instead of on bus lines.
But please, again, great program. We endorse that with our families that are looking for either before school or after school. It's a savior for people who are working possibly or need that time frame. It's just, we're just concerned about putting in our student handbook. That's all.
Is there anywhere in the handbook that it's gonna tell people what the parent portal access is? Because there's a lot of reference to parent portal, but there's a lot of people who don't know how to access it.
That information we can certainly add it to the handbook, but that information regularly comes out from the school offices. So they'll send out information before the report card time to remind people, if you don't know how to access, here's the information that you need to, but we can certainly add it.
I just say the more places it can be, the better off we are, that people have we have the access to things. Just put it there so that people know.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of people who don't, I don't know how they don't know, because I would think, as you said, the school sends the letters out, but they're still asking.
so the next one has to do with course credit. So given the COVID protocol, why are we reducing it from 10 to 7 in this year of all years where you would, I think it potentially would see an increased absence rate?
That was a question I had as well. And Al, you and I had a conversation about this recently as well.
Where are you at?
Under course credit. So it's page, what's that?
Can we get these numbered for, in the handbook with pages?
Bottom of the second page on the back. So it's like page 4 technically, I
Okay,
guess.
yes, sorry.
So it's reducing alternate day course at the same limit of 10 absences and down to 7 students who exceed 10 absences in semester courses will lose credit.
Right.
Just.
And I'm not sure I'm going to say this absolutely correctly, but it has to do with the 10 absences then being part of our attendance accountability, that it's too many absences to do anything about it. So we needed to, and Mr. Hale can do a much better job of explaining the adjustment to that or Mr.
We'll look at that.
Oliver. Yeah,
But if I'm a close contact twice and I have to quarantine and I'm unvaccinated, I've already hit the 10 days.
you can also learn synchronously, so you don't have to be.
Actually, no,
contact.
we can't.
If you're a close contact in school.
In school.
Oh, so if my
Or
son,
just-
my son had a cough, okay? He had a cough and he had a little bit of a fever. So we kept him home. He got the test came back negative. He just had a cold. But we could not send him to school during that period of time. He was not eligible to take this. And this is the second or third time where we as parents are like, well, we don't know, he's coughing, he's showing some symptoms. We can't send him to school. What do we do, right?
The-
So
the
now,
example
how many
that Patrick
absences have we had from him? I think we're close to 7, and it's only half the school year.
So a couple
Do we
things.
just send them now?
Yeah, so a couple things, if your child's sick, we want you to keep your child home, right? And especially if they're sick, we want them to rest and get better, and I'm so out of my lane, this is more Kiara's. But one of the things that we're talking with the HWA, and I know that's part of negotiations, is about synchronous learning right now. But right now, we're providing synchronous learning for students who are positive or close contact due to COVID, right? So those are where we're providing the synchronous learning to. Other than that, we refer back to when students are out for a period of time, then they have an opportunity with their teachers to get packets and work as well. So, but we continue that conversation with the working group with the HWA, and I know that's part of probably negotiation.
But I would say that more children out there are being kept at home because they're showing symptoms and because they're close contact or something like that. And then they go and they get their test, and that always takes a couple of days, and then it's like, oh, those days are wasted. Now we cut it down to 7.
So I was just gonna go back to Patrick's question of, I didn't get clarification on that. That's course credit, but that's specifically for the high school. Yeah, so I'll get clarification and get that information out to you.
Thank you.
I think that language 7 is throughout the document.
The next page, so what would that be, 4 or 5, page 6? So in particular, as we're looking at the COVID-19, why would we have in our language specific to what it is now versus reflecting what the DESI or state guidance
It's for the
is?
CDC.
So that if it changes,
Right.
It's
we then
constantly
have,
changing, so it's hard to do that.
so that's why I would just make it very generic and broad, where we get pretty specific from a language standpoint.
Yep.
Simplify it. That would be the next question or recommendation.
Or refer something along the lines that will refer to the what currently is taking place or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. gotcha.
Something so that you're not constantly trying to change it. And then in that same vein, yep,
In that vein, of what you're just saying, I was wondering why, and maybe it's because of this. Why test and stay isn't mentioned as a.
So exactly for the reason I think that Patrick's saying, right?
exactly
So,
the same.
I mean, it's,
Changes
we
all the
have it now, right? And
We may
we're really
not
glad
have
we have it now.
Yeah.
But
We could not have it in 6 months.
That wasn't even an option when I started
Yeah.
doing that either, so.
the next one, nowhere else in the document do we make reference to an individual person's name. Yet on the last page, we make reference to Russell Johnson, Senior Associate Commissioner, Aaron McMahon, Senior Advisor to the Commissioner, and Governor Baker. I would remove specific names so that if somebody is no longer in that position, we don't have to change any documentation.
okay, Patrick, I'm sorry, where are you?
So if you go under presence of significance number of new cases in Hampton or Wilbraham on the last page, on the last bullet, you'll see 2 names there, and then the one below is the one reference to Governor Baker. Everywhere else we refer to governor.
Yep,
Let's keep it generic. And then the last question, why do we have the exact same language for the one-to-one device program for the middle school and for Minnetonka? Why wouldn't we just have it for Wilbraham or middle school and Minnetonka Regional High School as opposed to having it in there twice with the same language?
Or you're putting it in different sections.
It's in different sections.
So I think it
Yeah,
should have
it's
been
built in.
notated that what you were gonna section out, so there should have been a section for what was being in the Minnetonka portion and then what was gonna be in primary and
Okay,
secondary.
understood. Got it. Thank you.
And page numbers are very helpful. That was actually something before you even took this role. When I first started doing this, I was like, can we please put a page number?
So is there anything else? Because now we're just delaying this a little bit more, and we want, I know that one of the things that you wanted is get this. So if we make those changes, we want to be able to, or how you guys do it, so we can vote on if we'll try to change the major, so we can move forward on this. get it to Andrea, get some clarification from the high school, and then be able to get this out and going.
I want verification if the forms are attached, because this is the second time I've had to ask about it.
Can we make a motion to approve with the accepted change, with recommended changes, so that we don't have to wait till January
That's right.
to get it out? Does that work for everybody?
Second,
So moved. All in favor? Take the roll call then.
get the roll call.
Sure.
vote,
No.
right?
You don't have to roll.
No, we
We're
don't.
all
have to
here,
roll
we're all present.
call.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
So
All
before,
opposed? All opposed?
so Mary, you got everything for the most part? Lisa, you got everything?
So that was Patrick, that-
Yep, not even that as much as like the changes that we made. So I got some notes. I know Lisa has some notes, and Aaron, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. But I notes for the changes, so we can get this thing done and get it out to people.
When is the mask mandate that we're under right now? When does that expire?
January.
January 14th. Yeah, 14th to
Didn't the
15th.
Department of Secondary extend it?
So what we just.
What was our vote for? The 14th to 15th or 30th?
No.
Ours was the end of calendar year,
End of this year,
end of this calendar year.
right?
So we had and I was gonna talk a little bit about that, but it's okay. We had a call with the commissioner yesterday, yeah, maybe yesterday. He's gonna give us further guidance shortly, but right now, looking like that, we're gonna continue to be wearing masks. So that's the indication that he's on track.
Unless we have 80%.
Unless, well, I'm not even sure about that at this point, but we will see. Yeah, he's wavered a little bit on that, so we'll be interested to see how he comes through with that process as well too. But I'll
What
tell
I
you,
understood in Long Meadow, it became a huge issue. Because all of a sudden, you're painting a scarlet A on every single
who's
person.
wearing a mask, who's not wearing a mask? Are you vaccinated, you not vaccinated? It really has become an issue, so I really wasn't really pushing that along, but we certainly want our students vaccinated and our adults vaccinated as well too. But Kara's gonna go over a lot of data with you on that chapter as well. Any other changes? We're all good with this, and we can move forward and get this up. Okay, great. Thank you.
I can't find it, but somewhere in here I read about excessive suspensions and what it would lead to. Does anybody remember reading that?
It was removed.
Was
So
it
if you look,
removed?
it's loss of activity privileges. It's
Okay.
on page 5, top paragraph.
Good. With the
We're
handbook?
all set.
Okay, excellent. Kiara. Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, just gonna kind of briefly go through the
Kiara, can you
data.
just put that on, for me, please?
Oh, I forgot. Yep.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. Just want to remind you that the data on the very top is all of Wilbraham and all of Hamden. So the positive cases since school start, the 596. I used November 24th as, the reason I used November 24th to December 16th for the next piece of data was because that was the day I really saw an uptick in our cases. So from the time period of November 24th to today, Wilbraham as a whole has had 235 positive COVID cases. And Hamden during the, just before Thanksgiving to today, has had a total of 51 positive cases. So far this school year, we've had a total of 227 staff and students who have tested positive for COVID. Below that is the percentages. And when I look at the cases as they come into Maven, it does show who has vaccine, who's vaccinated, who's not. So at right now for this time period, 22% of our COVID cases are fully vaccinated, meaning they have breakthrough infections, they're fully vaccinated, but they're still getting COVID. And 78% of our COVID positive cases are not fully vaccinated. As you can see, as our cases have, our positivity rates have increased throughout the state, as it has in all of the Northeast. In Minnetonka High School, I just ran another sync today, and we are at 99% staff and students totally fully vaccinated. And at Wilbraham Middle School, we're at 58%.
So Kiara, just so you, I think I heard you say 99%.
66.
I just want to record it.
I said 99.
I was thinking it's off.
I know.
I just had to be Patrick because I know.
Well, maybe that's what I'm hoping for, isn't it?
So for the
I
record,
apologize.
66%.
Conversion dyslexia.
One
One
can
can
dream.
wish, one can wish.
Yeah. So the test and stay program as a whole, I think that's gone really well. We're, a lot of students are being able to return to school because of that program. We've had just one positive result out of that program so far to date. And I know somebody usually asks me about quarantine and isolation, so I did get the data from all the nurses today. So we currently have 76 students or staff, students, I should say, that are currently either isolated or quarantined as of today. And
So Kiara, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How many people do you think we've seen through test and, how many people do you think we've seen through test and stay?
we've done a
Oh,
total
sorry.
of 200 tests. Oh geez, I don't know, a lot.
So I think the thing that Kiara said, only one student so far going through that test and stay turned out had a positive result. So think about all those kids that would have had to be quarantined, but yet we're able to keep them in school during the test and stay.
How often are the same kids testing and staying? Do we know that data?
Can you say that again?
Do we know the data of how many kids are actually going, the same kid who may be going through the test and stay?
Yeah, well, they have to go, yeah, I can get you.
I
that
know
data.
that,
don't
like,
have
they
it
go
right
and do
now,
it for
but-
5 days, but how many times is the
Yeah,
potential
so
for
they
the same
have to
group of
go
students?
for a total of 7 days after last exposure to that positive case. Sometimes it's just 3 days. So if it falls on a Friday, it depends. It is whatever day their last exposure is, they have to test until that same day the following week. So 7 days.
So Kiara, I think what she's asking is if little Kiara
Yeah.
went through test and stay this time,
Yeah.
how many times have we seen Kiara maybe a month later or a month later again? How many multiple is there?
At this time, I haven't seen a lot of repeats at all.
That's, I guess, the question. yeah.
Right, the COVID cases are really spread out through all the schools. And, we did shut down we did have a COVID cluster at Green Meadows for preschool. Not totally surprised, it's really hard for the teachers to keep those little ones separated, and they stay in that whole, they eat in that room, they do everything in that space, but all those students are back except for the ones who tested positive.
If I could jump in for a little bit of my superintendent's part about this. So that was one of the first classrooms, obviously, that we closed. I made you guys aware of that as well, too. It's a lot different this year than in previous years. So in the previous years, we made a decision and thought, there was a lot going on, the high rates, and we shut down a classroom. We did that last year multiple times. I bring the school committee chair and we talk about it and then make that decision based on talking to our director of nursing and make those decisions. This year, it's a lot different. We had to make sure when we thought we saw this positivity rate increasing, we were concerned about what was happening. The student test and stay tested positive as well, too. We not only have to have a conversation with the Department of Education, we also have to have a conversation and basically approval for the Mass Department of Public Health. And then we also met with an epidemiologist as well, too. So it's a lot. They're being much more strict in terms of when you decide to close a classroom, that might close a school, that might close a district. So it's a lot of work that we got to do in preparation and making sure that we were doing everything that we could do before we close the classroom.
Yeah, thank you. And as far as next Tuesday, we have another COVID clinic. And so those kids that got their first vaccine will be coming to get their second vaccine. I'm going to invite everyone in our school community I'm going to open it up again tomorrow. Everyone will receive a link so you can get either the Pfizer or Moderna first or second vaccine and the booster if you want to get a booster. And if kids want to, parents want to sign up their kids for their first one, they can do that as well on Tuesday. So that information will be going out to everyone tomorrow with the link to sign up for the COVID clinic on Tuesday.
161 for the first one, correct? 165
Yeah, 165, yeah.
Sorry, 165 people participated for the first one.
Yeah.
Great.
The other thing, can you just, I know she's not here with us tonight, can you just give the name of our new Department of Public Health? Nurse?
Yes. So Ashley Boudreau is our Department of Public Health nurse. She'll be covering the towns of Wilbraham, Hamden, Munson, and Long Meadow.
And our goal will be at our next school committee meeting to have her coming, and she's a Wilbraham mom.
Yes.
And she'll be joining us to give us a little update in terms of.
And she is also really going to be pushing for clinics, and as soon as she has the next date, we'll get that out to the community to, we're planning on having several clinics.
Any concern for you guys for Christmas break and kids coming back?
Yeah, we have a lot of concern. You know, people are traveling, people are, you know, living their lives really. So we know that the surge is going to continue through the holidays. So, you know, we're just hoping if people are traveling that they, you know, they follow the CDC guidelines and try to, you know, get tested, get checked. We can't mandate that, but we're just hoping that they make good choices. And, you know, I do want to address Sean, because you're absolutely right. It's just as frustrating for the nurses, because they're saying the kids are coming down, and we know, is it a cold? Is it COVID? Is it, you know, and we have a low threshold right now because of the surge right now that's going on. So Dr. Casper also reported to seeing a lot of flu A activity, and we've had several flu cases as well. So it is frustrating for all of you, and we're sorry about that. The Eastfield Mall, you know, it was really quick. It was 24 hours. And now with so many people testing, it now can be 2 days, on a rare occasion, 3 days. So that is very frustrating for families.
So Mario brought a really good point up. So I have a message going out this Sunday that it is a little strict and basically saying what the surge that we saw after Thanksgiving was a lot of outside behaviors that infiltrated and caused us to have these situations. So my message is a little strong that's going out, but it's also just trying to keep our kids and our schools open and our classrooms open, and asking the adult behavior to really be mindful of what's going to be taking place, so we don't see what we saw at Thanksgiving.
So with the governor and his, I apologize, with the governor and his push for these at-home tests for certain communities, they're trying to make it so that they're more accessible for everyone everywhere. Is there going to be any kind of communication? I realize you can't accept the test results for a parent, but I think it's helpful to encourage parents that if you're not sure, you can start with that, and then if it's positive there, then you can take your kid to go get a test.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, Ashley couldn't be here tonight, but she was going to talk about that, because there is a big push for at-home testing, because, you know, and people are doing it anyway, right? And yeah, we can't accept it as a positive or negative, and there's a couple reasons behind that. It's not just a trust issue. It's if you know, what is the situation? Are you a close contact and you're negative? Okay, that still might be a problem. If you're positive, you still want to go get a PCR, because you want to be in the system, because then you are you know, exempt from any testing for 90 days if you actually test positive. So, you know, we say if you test positive, you know, stay home, follow the guidelines, but we want to tell people, please still go get the PCR. That way, if you get exposed again, you don't have to do anything for at least 90 days. That hasn't changed at this point, but yeah, we actually encourage people to do testing, but you know, and if they test positive, please just call us, and we'll you know, move forward with that. But yeah, it's really helpful for families to know. There's really only 2 approved tests, just so you know. Right now, they're approved, the Abbott Finex now, which we do the test and stay program, and then the other one is QuickView. And there's a lot of other tests out there that aren't regulated and not considered to be acceptable. So that's another thing I could probably share with families during my email. I'll be sending one out before, well, we will, before the holidays. So.
But we really are asking families to really be mindful during this holiday break, right? And making sure that they do follow the practices that we're asking about: wearing masks, washing your hands, keeping the distance in as much as we can, because we just don't want to see this spike take place. I mean, look at the numbers that Kara gave us from that Thanksgiving break alone. Never mind our concern what's going to happen about Christmas time as well.
Yeah, and you know, I recommend you all get tested. When I go see my mother at the nursing home, I get tested because I'm going to visit her. So you know, the
they're high risk, so it's a good idea.
But I was coming from yesterday from Springfield, and the line outside in the Eastville Mall, it's lengthy again.
Yep, yeah.
Absolutely lengthy again. Any questions for Kiara at all? Further questions?
Kiara, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next one,
Thank you, everybody.
Kiara and her team are doing phenomenal work. The nurses and Melissa, I know can't be here with us tonight, but they have done incredible work. And we are on a daily police call, and they've been doing incredible work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope everybody has a great holiday with your families.
You as
well.
You too, thank you.
Thanks, Kiara. Okay, if I go out of order one more time.
Can we actually not do that anymore?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we, I mean, every meeting we go out of order, all right? And we know who's gonna come, we know what's planned, and we go out of order. I've had parents say to me, yeah, I thought there was gonna be, it was gonna be halfway through the meeting, and I guess it was something you guys went out of order with. So, I mean, when you're planning this, try to just, because it seems like every week we're going out of order. So that would be my recommendation, just to.
Sure, fair enough.
I've often mentioned to you, Al, about the fact that you know how you want the meeting to go. We kind of do the same thing with the same people. We want people to come to the meeting as far as to give updates, but you keep moving them to the lower end of the report.
So, sure, absolutely, absolutely. I'll be much more conscious of that.
Thank you,
Sometimes,
sir.
yep, absolutely. I'll leave it at that.
So we'll move in, please go ahead.
So I'm going to ask you to go out of order again. So the reason tonight for this being out of order, because I'm going to introduce you to our new principal of Mile Tree, who just left her Know Your School night or her parent night. And so we originally had her at the very beginning, but because sometimes things change within 48 hours when we post, we have to make some adjustments on the fly. So that's why this is all on me. Michelle is very conscientious of putting the agenda together. It's usually me that's coming asking to change at the last minute. So I own that, and I'm sorry about that. With that being said, it's my pleasure this evening, and Allison, please join us up there, please. My pleasure this evening to introduce you to the new instructional leader for Mile Tree School. It's Allison Pettit. Allison comes to us as a sitting principal, and I use that word sitting principal as a principal right now in Palmer, Mass. Next time over. She has 12 years experience as an early child educator, 4 years experience as an administrator. Her knowledge and with curriculum and analyzing data is outstanding. Allison is a mom of 3 students in the Hamden-Wilbraham Regional School District as well, too, a Wilbraham mom as well. She, throughout the entire process, was our strongest candidate, and everyone on the interview panel had Allison as our first candidate. I want to thank Lisa Curtin. She did great work for running her first principal search, and those aren't easy to do, and not only running a search, but getting such a strong candidate, along with the administration, teachers, paras, directors, parents, school committee members that also participated in the interview process as well too. It's my pleasure to introduce you our new instructional leader, Allison Pettit of Mile Tree School. Welcome, congratulations.
Thank you. I just want to thank everyone for this wonderful opportunity. I'm so excited to get started. I was able to visit Mile Tree earlier this week on Tuesday, and when one chapter closes, another one opens, and leaving a school, I have been in Palmer for a long time, and so I have built, just amazing relationships with students and families, and so to close that chapter felt bittersweet for sure, but visiting Mile Tree on Tuesday really, sealed the deal and made me feel very confident in leaving them in good hands, but being able to take on the leadership role at Mile Tree. I'm very excited for what I'm able to bring to that community and what that team will be able to help me achieve there. And I think that it will be a wonderful experience for everyone. So I'm very excited to join the team. And I can't wait for January 3rd, my official start date, so that I can get in there every day.
So we put her through the ringer already on Tuesday. So her first day really was this past Tuesday. She met, we had quite an agenda that we put together for her. 8:30, she met at the central office. So she had a chance to meet the district office as well as principals, assistant principals, directors. Had an opportunity to meet with all of them. She also had a chance to meet with the instructional coaches that will be working with her and the staff of Mile Tree. Toured Mile Tree from 1:30 to 3. Had an opportunity to then at 3 o'clock meet with the entire staff as well. I also met with PTO President Renee Bracy yesterday as well too, and I know they're planning on having some great activities to welcome Allison Pettit as well too. So again, we're really thrilled to have her as the next instructional leader of Mile Tree. Comments, ladies, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Thank you.
If you feel you need anything, don't be shy about asking.
Oh, okay.
All right?
I already have a list,
And
so thank
Lisa,
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome to the district.
Yes.
Thank
How was
you.
your parent night tonight?
It was long.
Yeah.
It was long, but well attended.
Yes, there you go.
Thank you.
And don't worry, there'll be a night for parents and families to come meet Allison after the holiday, after she gets her legs under her at the building. So that'll be coming.
Your commute must be a little bit nicer, right?
So I'm embarrassed to say that it is 1.8 miles.
So when it gets warmer, you could walk if you wanted to.
Absolutely. So I mentioned this and we live at the top of Macintosh.
Mhm.
So it's a hill. So my kids right away, they said, you'd walk back up that hill? But absolutely, yeah. It's a embarrassingly short commute, but
That's
very
okay.
exciting.
You doubled, you shot you by half, haven't you?
Which is hard to believe that you could even do that. Palmer is not that far away. So, and then the other part of it that's very exciting when people ask is that really Mile Tree falls right in between the village store and Rice's Fruit Farm. So, I mean, your options are endless there. So
Good lunch.
very exciting. Yeah.
The best part of the story is, first of all, the kids at dismissal at Mile Tree and everybody hugging her and happy to see her on that very first day. But talking to Allison afterwards, and bus 11 pulled up and she goes, I think my own child was just on bus 11. I was just driving by. I'm like, did you say hello? You can say She was just all professional all day long and ready to take the job.
How old are your children?
So my daughter Stella is in 3rd grade at Stony Hill. And then my son Owen is in 6th at Wilbraham Middle and my daughter Natalie's in 7th at Wilbraham Middle. And they're just very relieved that I'm not the principal of their school. They're okay with that.
But you have an in with their principal, just saying.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
So we will move forward to the subcommittee updates. For the curriculum subcommittee, Cheryl, do you have an update?
Are we doing student services?
Oh, sorry, yes. Can we go through that? Oh, sorry. No, you go.
So I derive a financial benefit from early childhood program, so I am going to remove myself from this.
So everybody should have a copy of the presentation here. So tonight, the topics are, I'm going to go over the early childhood program, talk a little bit about the separate programs in the district. I'm going to talk a little bit about extended evals because we've been having quite a few of them lately. And then lastly, I'll talk a little bit about our next upcoming CPAC meeting. So turn to the next page. This shows us our early childhood program, the configuration. We currently have 5 preschool classrooms in the district. These 5 classrooms are located in 3 different locations. We have 2 classrooms in the Mile Tree building. We have Mrs. Clark's classroom and Mrs. Cran's classroom. And also at Mile Tree, at the bottom of that chart is the intensive resource room. And currently we're serving about 8 preschool students in that discrete trial classroom. So they spend half their day in the discrete trial classroom and half assigned to an integrated preschool classroom. We have 1 classroom currently. Mrs. Person is here at Minnetonka, and we call it the Mile Tree Extension. And she has a morning and an afternoon session. And then we have 2 classrooms over at Green Meadows. We have Miss Kane and Mrs. Kalish, and they are both running preschool classrooms that there are no IRR kids because we eliminated the IRR at Green Meadows. So Ms. Kane has classrooms that are half day morning session, half day afternoon session, whereas Kellen has full-time students in her classroom, as does Ms. Krantz. So we have 1 classroom in each of the towns that offers full day pre-K for peer partners. So just going down to the next section, some of the issues of concern that I just wanted to make you aware of, we have received several sped move-ins that absorbed quite a few preschool spots for us. I know in the last time I spoke, I said just in general, we have a lot of special ed move-ins. We don't often have a lot of preschool move-ins that are special ed students. But we've had at least 5 since the beginning of the school year. So they have taken quite a few spots. And right now, the number of our current referrals is approaching the number of open slots. Students in the early intervention program are coming to us. They're presenting with higher needs than we've seen in the past. And I think a lot of it had to do with COVID. Early intervention wasn't providing services for a period of time because of COVID. So we really have had an influx of referrals for our program. We're also experiencing notably more behavioral issues for our young learners in the preschool setting. We do need to provide services to students once they turn 3 if they qualify. So another half-day class will be warranted by February. I would say that to accommodate the needs of the preschoolers, we would have to open up another half-day class. It may be a challenge to find an adequate number of peer partners to populate this class, but we do have various ways that we can advertise this. Al can do a connected message to all families, letting them know that we have this availability, because preschool is always rolling admission. So as soon as a child turns 3, they're eligible for the program. So I'm hoping that we won't have a challenge with finding peer partners for this classroom. The other thing I just wanted to mention as far as preschool goes is having preschool classrooms spread in 3 locations. It does result in inequitable placements, and just to put it out there, having a centralized preschool where you have all 5 classrooms together would be ideal, because programmatically you'd be able to have the teachers meeting on a regular basis. I feel like we're kind of stuck with inequitable placements, because if you have a high needs student that has autism and needs IRR services, we only have 2 classrooms at Mile Tree to be able to put those students in. And then the classroom here at Minichog, it typically has our lower special needs students, because we don't have the resources here in this building to be able to meet the needs of higher need kids. And then Green Meadows, without the IRR, we don't have kids with autism over there because they need the services offered at Mile Tree. So just consolidating the program would be extremely beneficial. So,
What are your thoughts about integrating K into it and doing like an early childhood center?
I would love that.
Would
I
that,
think she suggested that, but
I couldn't remember, I don't remember, I know I've talked to Al about it in the past, and
I think if we restructure, that would be amazing to have Mile Tree be an early childhood center of all pre-K and all K in that building, because that's what that building's designed for, is early childhood.
Hence the pre-conversation we're having earlier about the use of all of our buildings and continue to be involved with that stuff.
So that's all I have for early childhood. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but I just thought it was important just to talk about what we're running into right now with that program. One positive thing that I want to mention is that I know Erin talked about our ESSER funding and that we're able to hire counselors. So we have a counselor that is going to be assigned for pre-K, K in 1st grade to provide support to Green Meadows and Mile Tree for those grade bands, to be proactive, to help teach the social skills that the kids are showing deficits in. And she will be starting on January 3rd.
so Al, how does that work with separating between the schools? Because I realized in some of the other aspects where there was an ask of having something happen in Wilbraham, half in Hamden, there was concern about transportation time and travel time.
And that's part of it. So just remember, preschool is not part of the regional agreement. right?
Yep,
So
no,
that's the
I
one
understand
thing.
that part of it. Yep.
But so that's one of the things that kids can be traveling, and this, I'm sorry, you can answer this question. But like sometimes there might be spots opening at Green Meadows preschool for our typical developing students, and yet parents sometimes don't want to be making that long.
Yep.
They consider that sometimes be a long drive coming from Wilbraham going up to.
No, I was talking about the
Is that what you're
instructors.
asking for?
No, I was talking about the staff member, not the families.
Oh,
So
okay.
the counselor
Sorry.
that we're hiring.
Oh, sorry, I
Yeah.
am sorry.
Okay, so clearly the person will be at Mile Tree a lot more than at Green Meadows, but we'll probably do like a three-day, 2-day split.
So it won't be broken up during the day, it'll be the broken up in the week.
you said that you're gonna have to open up another half-day class in February. Have you identified an individual that's gonna be able to take that class?
So I spoke to Erin today, and we probably will be posting for that position soon.
And where will that position, what building?
Ideally, we would be doing the same thing we did last year and trying to use the classroom next to Lisa Person's classroom. because we really, like, honestly, in the district, we don't have other options.
I mean, right here, right? At the high
Yeah,
school?
yeah, that's the only option right at this point. And just to put out there, I want to make sure that people understand that Green Meadows, they did have a really large classroom that was our IRR classroom. But just as a reminder, we had to create a third kindergarten classroom due to numbers. And in addition to that, we had to create a third second grade classroom over there. So that's 2 large classrooms that were taken up by the need for additional programming at those grade levels.
I misunderstood your question, Laura. I'm sorry.
That's okay, don't worry about it.
Which is why I think reorganization as part of the strategic plan is absolutely critical. You know, when we're struggling for, you know, for the space and looking not only, you know, a year or 2 down the road, but 5 and 10 years down the road.
So even to Mara's point, like splitting up the day, splitting up the week, if they're all in one location, right, whether it be our
Oh,
preschool,
yeah,
our early
yeah.
childhood center, like.
Yep.
Absolutely. So we talked about that today, and again, staying on topic here. So if a teacher or an adjustment health says Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we'll use that for an example, working with so many kids, and then leaves for Thursday, Friday, goes to another school, but yet that kid has an issue Thursday morning, that teacher, that guidance counselor, or adjustment counselor, I should say, is not going to be able to see them until Monday. So that's difficult for us.
Right, so I just want to say that the person that we hired, our goal is to provide proactive intervention. So this person is not going to be having one-to-one sessions and being the
All tier one.
primary contact. It's going to be more like if she's Monday, Wednesday, Friday at one place and Tuesday, Thursday, she's going to have set groups where she's going to be working proactively with the teacher to teach social skills lessons. Or if she has small groups, like doing lunch bunches, those are going to be set the same times each week. So that won't be an issue.
We were just using that for an example of
Yeah.
like when you have staff that we split. It's not.
Right.
It makes more sense to do a split schedule than it does to have a split day. So that's the only thing I was just concerned with,
Yeah.
because it's nothing worse than having to rush off to something and making someone feel rushed.
So
That's what I was asking.
it'll be full day.
So what we're referring to in hiring these people is called tier 1, right? So that's going to be, we're going to be giving the support to the entire group of kids, not just individual groups, because we're seeing that there's a need for social emotional support for all of our kids.
And tier 2, because once they do the full group lesson, there are going to be some kids that have notable deficits that you're going to want to take them into smaller groups to work on those skills. Okay, so next page, sub-separate programs. I just wanted to give you an overview. I haven't talked about those this year, but I wanted to just let you know what exists in each of the buildings. So at Green Meadows, we have 2 sub-separate programs. We have the structured learning classroom, which is for students with socio-emotional or behavioral challenges. This program has explicit social skills instruction, and inclusion opportunities are available for the kids in this sub-separate classroom on an individualized basis. So when they're demonstrating behaviors that are conducive to them functioning well in an inclusion classroom, they'll be given time in there. We usually try to start them off in maybe a pull-out classroom for ELA or math, and then give them the opportunity to go to the bigger group as they progress in their social ability to function in there. The other class at Green Meadows, which is pretty new, we used to have an intensive resource classroom there, and that focused on discrete trials, and it was for our kids with autism. But we found the need for a life skills classroom that has a completely modified curriculum for kids who would not be able to function effectively in a general ed classroom. So it's the teacher modifies the curriculum for these students. And right now, because it's Green Meadows and we have a large grade band, it's grades 3 to 7. There's only one 7th grader that is there some of the time, but the beauty of this class is it's kind of a hybrid class where they may attend this class for math and ELA and then have integration experience for some of their other periods. So this class is working out very nicely, and the fact that Green Meadows has a larger grade band makes it much easier for us to have this kind of program there.
So is that more of, and I'm just trying to understand it, how it works. So is that more of a child would go to one classroom and then they'd be in that classroom for a little while and they get pulled out, or they go to different
No,
rooms,
it's
or they're
more-
just in the
it's
same
more
room the whole
this-
time?
But there are some of them that are in the room for the majority of the day because they need a completely modified curriculum. They, all of the kids in this classroom are able to go out for their related arts.
Okay,
Art, music, and they have support to help them to access in those classrooms.
thank you.
So the next one is Mile Tree. Mile Tree, it's a little bit different than a life skills classroom. It's an intensive resource room, and I think I talked a little bit about, we just purchased the ACES curriculum, and they're able to do discrete trials, and it's all programmed on an iPad. So we're able to keep track and graph their attainment of skills. So that intensive resource room is the same thing that exists at Stony Hill. The kids just kind of graduate from one program to the next program. So that's what we have there. Sewell Road, we do not have any specialized programs at this point in time.
Is there just no need for it there?
Well, so right now there is not, because the Mile Tree program, we had to create at Stony Hill because the kids that were in the Mile Tree program needed somewhere to go when they went to Stony Hill. Those kids are not of the age of Sewell Road yet. So we have to talk about what that looks like for the third graders for next year. Because once you get to the end of third grade, you really shouldn't be in discrete trials anymore. It should be more of a life skills type program. So some of those kids will either be able to go into classrooms and have paraprofessional support, or the decision might be made that they go to the life skills program over at Green Meadows. So right now, there's not a plan additional sub-separate programming at Sewell.
Okay, so just so I understand that, so instead of the student going to school, they would either go to Mile Tree? Or they would go to Green Meadows?
No, if they're a third grader, they would go to Green Meadows if they still needed an extremely modified curriculum and couldn't be in a general ed classroom.
Okay.
So the only way you cross to another town is if you need programming that doesn't.
That's what I
exist
just wanted to
in your
verify,
town.
to
That's-
make sure
yeah.
that there weren't gonna be any questions about that.
No, it's.
Not by
only-
me, but anybody's listening.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then Wilbraham Middle School, there is a structured learning classroom. We had that in the past. Last year, we didn't feel as though we had the need for it, but last year was tough, and the need arose for us to recreate that classroom. That is similar in nature to the classroom at Green Meadows that I talked about. And lastly, at Minichog, we have two classrooms. One is ELT 1, which is a true sub-separate classroom. Those kids are there all day, and they have a lot of opportunities to do things in the school. Falcon Friends works with them. It's a classroom of, right now, there are 5 kids assigned to that classroom. ELT 2 is a little different. It's more of a hybrid program where the kids are learning life skills, and they are probably in that classroom getting specialized instruction for 2 of their 4 blocks, and the other 2 blocks, they are in pull-out type of classes for math or ELA. So what I wanted to just talk about on the section below is just some of the issues of concern for the sub-separates is there's been quite a bit of turnover in these programs with paraprofessionals. We found that the paraprofessionals that were assigned to the IRR at Stony and Mile Tree, we did lose some of them right before the school year started. And teachers, we've had turnover with teachers in a few of these sub-separate programs.
So Gina, on that, what has our attrition rate been for teachers? What has our attrition rate been for paras? And what is the root cause of a higher attrition rate?
Well, so this is typical in most districts. Like when you have an intensive needs program, there's a high burnout rate because it's the most difficult population altogether in your classroom as far as services go. Like it's intense and it's not uncommon for there to be a high turnover rate in sub-separate classrooms. And ours, like there were different reasons for the 3 who left the district.
So this is normal, is what you're saying?
Normal to have what?
To how much turnover that we're having?
I don't know, like, I don't know what normal is, but like,
That's what I'm trying to understand. So what's the statistical normal or average that you want to look at? Are we above it or are we below it?
So
Is it quite a bit of staff turnover or quite a bit of staff turnover is normal?
Like, is 3 people normal in a year to have turnover? Or
I
is it
think
usually maybe 1 or 2?
it's probably higher than that, to have the 3 in 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 3, not even in 1 year, that's 3 in 6 months, right?
Yeah. Well, not 6 months, because we knew about the other one because the person was departing for a supervisory position. So
Right, but so let's go July 1, for the start of this school year.
For the fiscal year, it's
So we still have a whole nother, called 6 months of the year.
Mhm.
And this is scary. So our most vulnerable learners,
But didn't you
we're
say,
seeing the highest level of turnover for.
I thought one of them was they got a supervisory position, another one was because they
Well,
moved.
so are we gonna be talking about specific people publicly? or-
I'm not
No, I don't
talking
think we want to.
I think we're delving
But I'm just
into
saying that the
territory
reasons
here.
weren't like they got burnt out. I'll put it that way. How's that?
So here's the thing, what we can say about these programs, they're tough to get employees to work in them, right? And so one of the things that when you have these degrees and these certifications, they can go anywhere and everywhere they want at any point. I mean, they have the ability, so if a job opens up that offers a little bit more money, while it's closer to their home or closer to, I don't want to get too specific, your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, work or anything like that, they're gonna make those moves.
There's a lot.
Because we're desperate for them. They are one of the most highly sought after.
But on the positive side, we did fill the Stony position very quickly.
Yep.
And now another district is in the same position that we were in because we took
I
a
know.
separate program teacher from them. You know, so that's just what happened.
It's no different than us taking, like Allison Pettit joining us, like the superintendent, I gotta say, I think she's still upset with me, right? So she really is, right? And I don't blame her, right? They're sought after positions, and we're taking from one and bringing the other, so it's happening on all ends.
Yeah, but Gina, didn't you say at the beginning that there's a high turnover because of burnout? But then I thought the 3 instances of the teachers that we lost this year, none of them was a burnout.
But I said burnout, like in general, you were asking me in general for these classrooms, if we're higher or lower. Like, I don't know the answer to that. I don't keep track of like what other districts are doing.
So I think what Gene
Well,
is
I wanna know what
referring
you're
to is
doing,
in
what
the
our district's
long
doing.
run, these are very difficult and challenging positions that are in demand. So without getting into specifics, the current ones that may have been turnover are not necessarily burnouts. But it is on a long-term basis, when you talk looking over, say, 10 years, 20 years, that this is a high demand position and it does have a little bit higher turnover.
So are we above our
People working
historical
in
average
very
or below it?
intensive,
Can't answer that.
teachers working in very intensive classes don't even just move for more money or because they've burned out. They may move into a classroom that suits their need, may not be quite as intensive.
Can I say-
So these moves happen.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I think part of it is the job itself. Right? And it's a difficult job. But I think the other part is our configuration of schools makes it more difficult for the separate program teachers because they have to 1 year make friendships and allegiances with a variety of staff and feel comfortable in building. And then there might not be a need for their classroom that year, and they have to go to another school. And I think they bounce a lot, and you can tell me if I'm wrong.
No,
But I think they bounce a lot, and their supports, their adult supports, they make friendships, they make alliances, they share materials, and then they're off and they have to start all over again.
Right, so Cheryl, that's one of the issues of concern. I put the 2-grade configuration at our Wilbraham schools makes it difficult to optimize our use of resources because it limits the number of students that we can serve in one building. For example, when we first started the program at Stony Hill, we have to have enough kids to justify the creation of a program. So we had a student that was the only 3rd grade student that needed someplace to move on to, and we ended up keeping the student at Stony Hill as a 4th grader because and the parents were okay with this because that was the support and the specialized instruction that she needed to be able to be successful. So the 2-grade band is really difficult, and that's partly why the programs existed at Green Meadows previously. Green Meadows had 3 separate programs a while back because they have the grade bands to be able to allow for more grades to be serviced by that specialized program.
So what
Yes.
was our attrition rate there? Compared to our attrition rate now?
The attrition rate in the programs over there?
The teacher and paraprofessional attrition rate, when it was
So-
at Green Meadows versus today?
So I think we can get some information about that. There's stuff on the Department of Education website as well, too. We can get that information for you, Patrick. We will in terms of that. But I just gotta say one thing as a superintendent as well, too. Someone said about our vulnerable learners. So some of this is attrition, right? And some of this is because they're choosing. And let me be very clear as a superintendent, some of these situations are because they're not the right fit for these vulnerable learners. And we've had some difficult conversations. So I want to be very careful about the conversation we're having, but please make it known, it's not always because they're choosing, it's decisions that we're making as well, too.
I just
Because
think-
they're our toughest kids.
I would probably say, let's stop this
Yeah, I
conversation
agree.
here because we're getting awfully
I agree.
close to being identifying people.
I agree.
I'm not really comfortable with that. They're not here and
Yeah.
I think that you could potentially identify people who are being discussed in this conversation.
And I'm not even just talking about our special education, we're just talking about in general. So sometimes it's people leaving because they're going to other districts. And there's sometimes we're having those conversations that we need to have to make sure we have the right people sitting in front of our students at all times.
So if we can just get some data on,
Sure.
on turnover for paras, and I think that would be sufficient.
I guess, well, it's not.
So one of the things
Teachers
that,
and parents. it's not just parents, it's
Teachers and paras, yes.
one of the things we used to say in the previous district, we had a 50% turnover of paras every single year in Worcester. 50% turnover of paras that were leaving and new ones coming on board at the time. That's how high it was in the previous district. I've got to put you on the spot, Lisa, as in your district, you see a lot of turnover in paras?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
My previous district, sorry. I could only say about my particular building and no,
Okay.
there was no turnover.
Okay. Good to know.
And we have sub-separate in our building as well.
What's your grade been?
K through 4.
So we'll get that information for you.
And on the attrition, I think it seems like people get very defensive over it. I think we're just trying to understand, are there certain root causes we can identify to say, okay, here's how we do a better job? And I think back to your first year here, you said the most important things are that person in front of that teacher, or excuse me, the person in front of that student teaching. And so when you have attrition, it obviously creates disruption. It's not a personal, what is somebody doing wrong? It's really just trying to understand, does the data tell us a story that we can potentially make changes, or does it reinforce that we're doing things appropriately and we continue doing it?
I agree. I'm sorry if I take it personal. I do. I just want to make sure we have the best people there.
And I don't know about the rest of the
Yep,
district.
no,
so
I'm
that's
sorry,
my-
Lisa. That wasn't fair of me to do. Well, Lisa Curtin wanted to answer that question for me.
Okay, so just to wrap this up, the sub-separate, on the issues of concern, number 2, due to the higher number of intensive needs in the district, we do need additional sub-separate classrooms, but currently we're struggling with not having the classroom space available to create these. The only 2 buildings in the district that have space are Sewell and Minnetonka. But other than that, it would be really hard to create an additional classroom. So similar to it would be great for us to be able to create a life skills classroom that was for lower grade levels like K-2, because this one accommodates 3 to 7. So that would be extremely beneficial for us. So the next section, going on to extended evaluation out of district, I just wanted people to be aware that we have been having to make more out of district extended eval recommendations this year. We utilize this form of evaluation to get an outside perspective of what a student needs to be successful in both the academic and socio-emotional realm. We make these referrals just when a student's needs seem to surpass that which we can accommodate in the district. And oftentimes it's when a safety issue is present, when they're being physically aggressive, or they're just struggling with making it to school or functioning in the environment. The duration of these assessments is typically 8 weeks. Unfortunately, some of these do turn into long-term placements for us. The availability for these spots is pretty limited, and the need is surpassing the number of open placements because these placements are also struggling with staff. We currently have students that are on extended wait lists for placement, and we've had to contract out for a couple students for additional support, and we've been using an outside agency, Positive Behavioral Support, to help the students who really are having a tough time in the public school district and need something more, but there's wait lists of like 14 kids at some placements. So we're just trying to support them as best we can in the interim until they're able to get a more specialized program. And the last thing on the list is just the next CPAC meeting is here in IRC, and it's this upcoming Tuesday from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And the ETLs and I are going to be just going over the whole IEP process and just the various sections of the IEP and explaining to parents like what's included in all those sections. And that's all I got tonight.
Do you belong to any, and I only ask this because I'm not sure, do you belong to any other professional groups where in the state of Massachusetts? Because I know there are, you must go to meetings where there's, you're dealing with other student service individuals, that this is a commonality, common problem as far as the placements for students. Because I feel like that's a conversation needs to be had at a higher level above us. And when we're talking about having a roundtable, some of that data and that information is important, not just for our district and for Hampden County, but for the statewide. That I don't think that they are allotting for enough funds to help districts afford those added expenses. So I think they feel like they know that they're there, but they're not putting enough behind it.
Right. And it is common throughout the collaborative. I do have a lot of contact with Ludlow, Agawam, Southwick, East Long Meadow, Long Meadow, and West Springfield. Those are the 7 schools in the collaborative, and all of them are struggling with the same issues, that there's an increase in behavior, increase in anxiety, depression, school refusal, and just like the behaviors are the biggest thing. Like they're really struggling with managing behaviors in the school environment.
It's just sad to hear that there's 14 students that are on a waiting list. So they're not getting the needs that they, and it may not just be here, but I'm just saying in general that they're not getting what they're entitled to for an education. It's like, so what can we do to try to help bring some awareness to that at another level?
Right, and the big thing is staffing. Those agencies are saying that we would be able, if we can get additional staff, we would be able to tap into the wait list, but they said until they get that, the wait list is at a standstill.
Sure.
You know, even LP Vet, they have a new program that meets the needs of elementary age students for grades 1 through 5. And they have, when we made a referral there, they had a wait list of, like, I think it was only 3 kids, but the 3 kids were gonna sit there because they said they can't accept one single kid from the wait list until they're able to find paraprofessionals to work in the program.
Thank you very much.
So just one other thing, Gina, if you could just talk a little bit about the CPI training that's taking place. So one of the things, I'm sorry, could you just give us an update on that?
Yeah, sure. So we're down to 1 CPI trainer in our district. Darcy Andre is our CPI trainer.
What is CPI?
Crisis Prevention
Okay,
Institute.
thank
Yeah, and so it's really, it's teaching staff de-escalation techniques and physical intervention techniques. So we just had a refresher on the 9th, and we had quite a few people attend it just to keep their license current. And then on yesterday and today, it was the 2-day training for new paraprofessionals or new teachers who have not yet gone through our CPI training. And this enables them to be able to learn the de-escalation strategy so that they can help struggling students when they're escalating. And also, if physical intervention is needed, they have the training that they need to be able to help.
So God forbid a teacher or parent has to put their hands on a student to remove them, only if in case of a serious threat to themselves or others, they have to be trained and certified, sort of like CPR, but it's crisis prevention, intervention?
Yeah.
Intervention, yep. Great, thank you, Jim.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, continue moving through the committee updates. Finance and operations update.
I sent out the letter to the Finance Committee, Advisory Committee, and the select boards of both towns regarding our meeting on the 13th. I believe it was part of the agenda on the last Hampton's town meeting, the selectmen's meeting. Al, I think you told me that.
Yes, that was on the
And
agenda.
so it looks like we've got, I haven't received any responses back, but I'm assuming that everybody has marked it on their calendars. I'm also looking at the calendar for the upcoming budget season. I'd like to kick that off. I'm going to send a note to Aaron. If we can post the meetings, they'll be Monday night, 5 o'clock in the district office. The 2 Mondays that we won't meet are going to be President's Day and Martin Luther King Day. One is the 17th, the other one is, I don't know what it is. And then looking at the calendar, I was trying to find, I don't see the date where the Wilbraham, where the annual town meetings are. I'm assuming they're going to be on the 9th. They were on the 10th this past year, so I'm assuming the 9th is the second Monday of the month. So counting back 45 days from there would lead us to March 25th. So basically, we have 3 whole months in budget season to hammer out our final numbers. And we will need, as we get closer to that, we're going to have to set up a couple of dates because we need to have a budget presentation to the public. And then we also need to have to vote on the budget from the school committee. So I'll be working on those dates over the next week or so. And I'll get the email out to Aaron so that we can post all of those meetings in one fell swoop. Perfect. That's all I got.
Thank you. Lisa, for the.
We voted to match the minimum wage increase for January 1st. The state awarded ESSER money to the collaborative because I guess they didn't qualify for ESSER money before. So I don't know, but they qualified for ESSER money now and they were awarded ESSER money. And they were given a Business Professionals of America Grant Award for $42,000.
And I have no update for the Lower Pioneer Valley Corporation and then negotiation subcommittee. We've been meeting as needed. And then policy subcommittee.
So we're working through getting the rest of what's left to be completed, and I'll send an email out, Gina, Lisa and Cheryl to schedule the meeting for January. Lot to go through.
Consent agenda.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Point of order, there's a check inside our documents here. The
Yes.
check is not reflected anywhere in the agenda.
Sure, yep. So you do have a memo for that. You do need to, we do need you to accept donations over $500. So we'd be looking for a vote to that effect.
There's one it's for $600
Yes.
from David Walczyk. It's for the Jason Misiazik Memorial Scholarship Fund in the amount of $600.
Make a motion to accept the donation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hold on.
Sorry.
Consent agenda one.
So based off the date that it was received, there should have been a reasonable expectation that this was on the agenda. So if we're gonna vote on it, I would just encourage us to vote on the next one because it's not on the, it's not agenda at all. Vote on the next meeting, yeah, just so we have it on. So it would have passed, you could put it under the consent agenda. It's not on.
And it won't stop us from, at least sending the thank you card on behalf of the school committee as well.
Thanks.
Did I get seconded on consent agenda? Agenda?
No, yeah, Bill did. Oh, Bill, sorry.
Any changes anyone wants to the consent, to the, any of the minutes?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Did you do all of them, John, or just the one?
I did all of
You
them.
did all- Okay, sorry. I'm afraid. All right, so Albert is superintendent. Oh, the words are going around if you haven't signed. And then superintendent report. Sorry,
Great.
Sherry.
So I know I went out a little bit and gave a little bit of my update as we went around through here. What's that? Stop it. Be kind. Be kind. It's the holiday season. And something else that's not on the agenda that you might not necessarily getting one of those later on, Mr. Kennedy, that's another conversation. So I want to just, I do want to be serious here for a second. So the first thing I want to talk to you a little bit about is, no, let me go strategic plan first update. So strategic plan update, just so you're aware, we had our meeting on Wednesday where Mars worked with the strategic planning committee. One of the things, as you might be aware of, a conversation came up regarding whether that should be an open meeting law, our open meeting. We, in consultation with our attorney and as well as with the AG's office, the advisement was that we should probably have that as an open meeting. So on Wednesday, we had it posted within 48 hours, had an agenda, had Mary Camarello be in there and took minutes for us as well too, which we'll post those minutes as well too. We had a meeting where half the group did the SWOT and the other half did finalize the survey that is ready to go out. I know Mara and Bill are representing both Camden and Wilbraham on that. The survey's done. It's ready to go. We need people to take the survey. We're gonna really blitz that out by a number of different ways, not only on our website, but also we're going to have a QR code and signs that are gonna be up. We're going to have hard copies that are gonna be located in district offices and the libraries as well too. We're gonna do every way, anywhere we can to get people to do the survey. I'm gonna just say publicly, it is a long survey. And we need people to take the time to do that survey. It's a way for us to capture a lot of information. People want a lot of input on what questions we should be asking. And it ended up being, like I said, a good lengthy survey, but if you take the time to do it, we'll be able to capture some really good information. Once we get that, if we don't feel like we've captured everything we need to, we'll revisit this with both the strategic plan and Mars right now. But again, survey will be coming out. We'll be blitzing that out. Please, people in the community, take the survey. We're asking teachers and parents and students and alumni, community members, everyone to take that survey so we can get that information back.
So Al, the only concern I had, and I voiced to you on Wednesday, is that this is a Survey Monkey and the link is gonna go out. So what happens or what keeps us from having it end up going across the country to places where it doesn't need to go, people just filling it out? And I know the concern was maybe we'd only get like 500 to 1,000 responses, but what's the impact gonna be if we end up with like 5,000, 6,000? Do you know what I mean? Like those, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
If there's been some thought, what Mars is, I mean, I mentioned it to Mary and she's like, oh, well, I didn't think of that, but that's something I think we just need to make sure that there's someone's
So
watching.
one of the things that we've done in the past with surveys, and even when we did it in the district, is sometimes when people have it attached to their email, people aren't gonna be responding to it, but they feel like it's narrowing down to who they are. So it is an anonymous survey, so there's two ways of looking at it. I mean, right now, it's not attached to people's emails addresses right now.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
That's a hard one because you're absolutely right. I mean, you could, and then we talked about this as well. You know, if you don't have any way to verify who's filling out the survey, it could go anywhere.
And I mean, and one of the questions that got changed was asking, I mean, because we do have students that are school choice, but to them, they're part of our family, right? And I don't disagree with that, but when you start getting people who may put a community, people may leave that community out. There's just a little bit of a concern I have for the data and how that will look.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, maybe it'll be totally fine, it won't be an issue, but I just want to raise the flag.
I'm hoping people that have, it's a valid point. I'm hoping people that get the survey and are taking the survey are taking it with fidelity and are taking the time to answer this question, because this is our chance to get it right. And by the way, if we don't get it right and we don't get the information I feel like we need, I'll revisit this, because I need to make sure that this is the information that we're going to be using, that we're going to be providing to the strategic planning committee, that's going to then give it to the ball to me, you know, respectfully, and then working out the goals and the objectives as well too.
And then if it's not linked to an email, you could even have one person fill out the same survey.
And that was the other thing I said, is you could have, exactly.
Okay.
So
That's something.
excuse that data. It's just- It could go one way or, you know.
So even like one of the things, and I don't want to get too deep in this, but we heard loud and clear from the community, they wanted hard copies, right? People want them located in the library, they wanted so people could, some people that might not have this technology can come and do it. We heard that, we want to make sure we're being transparent, right? And so we wanted to make sure that, but I'm not even sure how I'm gonna keep track of that, right? I mean, we're gonna make copies, we're gonna put them in locations where people can access them. I'm hoping that people that are taking the survey realize the importance of it.
And I would recommend that you don't, I mean, while a lot of people like to use their mobile devices, I think there will be some typing requirements with the comment section that this will be the time for people to give you all the comments that you've been asking for.
That's right. So like I said, we're gonna do it even on posters, so we can do a QR code. We're hoping to get a lot of input from people. The next thing on the agenda is safety concerns. So this is pretty serious, and I know I sent you guys an email today before I sent that out to our staff, and I sent that out to families as well too. This is a situation that's going around. I've consulted with my colleagues as well too. So anyone that has colleagues or friends in other districts, I'm sure that superintendents have done this. It was a tough call for me to decide, I don't want to, alarm people, but at the same time, I have to alert people. And the most important thing in that message is pay attention to what's taking place with your children, pay attention to what's happening on this. This is something that's created through TikTok, which is still, I'm in awe that this could refer to a threat happening on December 17th. I did meet with Chief Trombley today, as well as Dan Menard. So we are going to have additional support from police officers on our campuses of both Camden and Wilbraham. But I'm asking parents, I'm asking all of us, we need all to be paying attention. If there's something that doesn't seem right, you need to make sure you let us know about that. And the one thing I regret not putting in this information as well too to parents is call 911, right? So if you're seeing something as well too, and that you're concerned about, and the police are aware of this TikTok challenge, or for whatever we call it, is out there. But it's pretty serious and frightening thing that's happening right now. Questions on that?
The only other safety concern I'd like to see what we can do is how we can resolve that 15 to 30-minute window of pickup at the end of the day that impacts a lot of members in the community of Wilbraham and Camden. It was brought up at the selectmen's meeting on Monday. Aaron kind of caught the tail end of it joining as.
Are you talking about Green Meadows?
Yes, but I also know that it's happening in other schools, in other buildings in Wilbraham that I'd like to understand that this has been something that's gone on for a few years now with that. And then I get that it's the pickup. I just want to make sure if there's anything we could do to help resolve that. There was a huge concern for it on Friday of last week when the road was blocked and there was a gas truck going up the street, and a resident reached out to police in Hamden that should there have been an accident, that would have been detrimental.
Yeah. So again, it's a situation that's happening at Green Meadows. The concern is that the parent pickup is going out onto North Road for that window of time. And the concern is that people coming from the other end of North Road as well too, and all that. It's a short window of time, but still it's a concern. I'm gonna just say this. I know it's a concern out in the driveway. It's something I think that's been happening for a while. My number one concern is the safety of those kids inside of our school and that dismissal. So if it takes me a little while longer and I back up traffic a little bit more, it's a heck of a lot easier story for me to tell you, say, we're gonna work on the traffic. Then God forbid I put the wrong kid in the wrong car or with the wrong parent, or we don't know where the heck he went. So my number one concern all day long is gonna be that safety.
You have that same issue at every school.
Every school.
You know what I mean? It's not just, Green Meadows, it's every single school has that same issue.
Moms opening the door, buckling their kindergarten child in, putting it in there like that, but yet I'm sitting behind you in the car, and I have a fifth grader that says, get in the car, right? And they're just getting in and buckling themselves in there. It takes a little while, but if it's gonna keep our kids safe and making sure we know exactly who got in what car, Green Meadows, number 54. 54 is associated, I'm making up a number, with Sean Kennedy and his son is Nicholas. Like, they have it all lined up perfectly to make sure those kids are safe. So it does take a while, but I'm never concerned about those kids not being safe. And even when Ken Willett came to join us, he said, you have an unbelievable safe plan. Again, out in the street, maybe it's more of a concern, and I'll be meeting with the select board of Camden on Monday night with Ed Sanadella to talk a little bit more about that.
I just would hate to have anything happen to anybody.
I agree.
That's all.
I agree.
It's a liability.
Certain things I can control. certain
Oh, yeah,
things
no, I
can't
understand.
control.
I understand, but I'd like to see what we can do to try to fix it.
I saw the correspondence in here. I haven't had a chance to read it fully yet. Is this just correspondence for us? Is there something we're supposed to do with this? Is this going to be a meeting, or is this an exercise for the students, or is this a?
So I'm not really sure. So we just received them and I wanted to be on a timely manner, get them to you. So those messages came from students regarding homework at the high school. So we literally just got it. So I haven't even had a chance to really, but I know we wouldn't have another meeting until, so I haven't even had a chance to share it with the high school principal, never mind myself to really.
So we can
You haven't done your homework. on it.
I haven't done my homework. I
So
haven't
we
done my
can
homework.
take these.
Yes, yes. It's,
I could share them with you in the drive.
Oh, great, thanks.
I think it goes along the lines of homework, snow days, all along those lines, but. And that's it for my superintendent.
Oh.
So we're up to future agenda items. So the additional items, in addition to what's already listed, was in addition to staff retention, there's turnover, superintendent goals. Ron for to discuss the food booster club, and then the approval of the $600 contribution. Anything else?
And Ron, the person, you said.
Yep,
Al's goals.
I said that also.
Oh, sorry, I didn't get that.
Yep.
I was probably hitting the piece of paper.
They're done, I just.
And to go over the resolutions too, was that on there?
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, so.
I mean, it's,
Sure.
I can do it in like 4 minutes. so.
Kathy, do you have something?
So it's ironic that you mentioned Al's goals. We're probably 30 days out from Al's midterm review.
Yeah, it's like reviews on the calendar. So that should also be on there, because you have to schedule it.
And our next school committee meeting is January 6th.
Yeah.
That's right, when we come back from the holiday break.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Roll call vote. Bill.
Aye.
Cheryl. Sean.
Aye.
Patrick.
Aye.
Lisa.
Hi.
Laura. Aye. Michelle, myself, aye. Meeting adjourned.
Happy and healthy holidays, everybody. Happy and
Thank
healthy
you.
holidays.
You too.